Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. This is Brock Beard from lastcar.info coming at you after the conclusion of the Toyota Save Mart 350 that just wrapped up yesterday evening. We're back here at Last Car headquarters, ready to talk about all the action from this weekend, all for Friday through Sunday, not only the Cup Series race, but also the track's first Xfinity Series race, the ARCA Menard Series West that came out. Of course, we got to talk about the sponsorship with our good buddy Brad Perez there on the number 53 Apex Coffee Roasters Toyota that finished 29th in the Cup Series or the Xfinity Series race, on Saturday. We'll cover all that. Before we get into it, then first thing I got to say is big thanks to just everyone for this weekend. This is probably, I've been going to Sears Point since 1992. We just celebrated our 30th anniversary of that just last year. I have to say, this is probably the most fun I've ever had at the track this particular weekend. It was so tremendous. We got, I appreciate all you guys for following along on social media. I met so many people this weekend that were huge fans of the website, and got to meet so many people out there. Got pictures with several of them. Just talking racing with people. That was really, especially on Sunday, that was kind of pretty much just did that all morning before the start of the race. And it was huge. You had a great meetup there, over at the grandstands there. Confirmation 07 in the chat here. We spoke with him and his friends out there as the drivers were walking out on the grid there before the race. And then just jumped right into the trackside coverage for the day there. And it was wonderful this weekend. I don't know how well it showed on TV. I know long green flag runs and NASCAR on Fox probably go together like oil and water. I have not yet watched really the broadcasts aside from the very minimal review clips that were posted earlier today by Fox and NASCAR here. So I'll be very interested to see how different it was on there. Obviously, a few cautions in the Cup Series race, certainly a bit more action in the Xfinity Series, which seems to be typical no matter what track you go to there. But again, really, there was so much that was going on behind the scenes, even in the Cup Series race, to an extent as well. And we'll definitely talk about that tonight. So hopefully that really kind of brings everything else up at the same time there. But just had a tremendous time this weekend. Again, and so many people I met. If you're at the track and I didn't meet you, I apologize. Really. We met so many people out there. I guess we couldn't meet everybody, but we'll definitely be doing some more races this year. Certainly Phoenix for the championship. We may squeeze in another race here this fall, either Vegas or Kansas. We're still figuring things out on that, and having more opportunities there. But the home track was really enjoyable. One other thing I got to say, the weather was fantastic this weekend too. It was probably the most comfortable weather we have out there because it's usually just scalding hot. I thought going into this last week's show, we talked about the possibility of that being a really big storyline, but it didn't turn out to be the case there. Another person I got to give a big shout out to here is, of course, our ARCA West correspondent, Ben Schneider. Big thanks to him and making the trip down here from Portland again for the second straight year. He and I were working the garage area busy this weekend. Those of you who were at our meetup on Sunday got a chance to meet him out there. We both got our picture taken with Brad after the Xfinity Series race. He did a great job this weekend there, so I really appreciate his help out there. We got a big time coming up here with the website. Our third writer, William Saki, is actually going to be covering the IndyCar race at Road America here pretty soon. So we're going to just continue with all of our coverage this year. But Sears Point this weekend was huge for that there. I guess we'll probably just start kind of hopping around with everything on there. But hopefully those of you checked out the feed there, on not just my feed, but also Ben's feed at BC Schneider 53. Again, did a great job. Perfect timing with him being number 53 on his Twitter handle there, as well as a 53 car for Brad this weekend. So we'll be doing a bit of hopping around in the discussion here at the same time. Also, big thanks to those of you who ordered stickers. We had a great deal on stickers this past weekend on my eBay store. We got a number of orders there, including a number of orders of the Kenny Irwin stickers that are on there as well. The Kenny Irwin stickers, the proceeds from those specifically are going to the foundation. We've already raised over $35 for that foundation just from the most recent push of those stickers there. So those are still definitely available. If you're interested in getting more of these from the weekend, we got the Brad Perez, the Apex Coffee Roasters car sticker, kind of modeled after the Patreon sticker. And of course, the sticker that appeared on the number 53 this past weekend here with the number 53 passing Kyle Larson's number 17, which actually, Larson, a misstep by Larson was actually ended up being a part of the story there, certainly in the Xfinity Series race there as well. But I still have both of these available in the store if you're interested. If you are interested in that, I recommend just hanging on until about middle of the week here. I got another shipment of stickers that's coming in. I'm going to add those to the store, and when I do, and have a similar deal that I'm just going to kind of set up there where you can get like a free sticker if you buy a couple there. And we'll have more details on that when that gets set up. But yeah, if you're definitely interested in that, we still have these in stock, and we'll have some more very soon. So so I guess really the best way to kind of jump into it, we'll get the race results up here from all three races, and we'll kind of cover the action from one moment to the next here. We usually do talk about the Cup Series race first, but really for this weekend here, especially coming back after all that, we'll probably go ahead more chronologically leading up into that event here. Let me just get these queued up at the same time. All right, and there's the Cup Series, and hang on. Let's get the Xfinity Series results here at the same time. And okay. So, first, just right off the bat here, like I said, a lot of excitement coming into this week here. Just really curious about how things are going to be playing out at the track with the lack of cautions that were going to be in the Cup Series and the Xfinity Series, especially after what we saw at both COTA and at Portland. Again, a really interesting competition and the way things played out in these events here. But getting over to the track on Friday, first thing noticed right off the bat had to be that number 28 car for Eric Almirola's team. It really stood out in the garage area coming down into the paddock that day there, and it turned out it ended up having a pretty sizable effect on how Saturday's race played out there. It was very interesting. I couldn't get Drew Blickensderfer was standing there, and I asked him directly if it was a RSS car or if it was a Stuart Haas car, and he just told me, I'm not sure really. But it was pretty much, there were a lot of telltale signs already that this was going to be a car that was going to be very competitive in Saturday's race. It was off a blank white hauler that had a lot of Smithfield equipment around it. On board the hauler was another one of Riley Herbst's Monster Energy cars that was parked up there. And then ultimately, when I was able to get a picture of the frame rail there, you could see it was at least from the pool of cars that Riley Herbst had been driving. I'm not sure exactly what the history was beyond that, but we got at least the chassis number on that. I know there were even some questions after the result of Saturday's race asking if that was the exact set of circumstances there. So that was kind of the first thing to look at. Ben Schneider accompanied me there into the garage area, and we were able to get the stickers on the 53 car right off the bat there. So that was really exciting. Definitely had to get some shots of that sticker on there. Ben Schneider, actually on his YouTube channel, he's got video of those stickers going on there. So big thanks to him for getting that video there at the same time. But very exciting to join on board. We did, of course, have the sticker on the number 43 truck, the I Set My Friends on Fire truck that Perez ran last year, and that was a really huge deal there for us. But this one even more. I think the one drawback with the truck series, it's kind of hard to see the rear deck lid decals there. But on this one here, I've seen a lot of great pictures of this 53 car, and in most of them, especially from a 3/4 view, you can really see them on the B-pillar. One thing that was fascinating about this, and that I reported at the time that Brad mentioned, of course, was originally this was going to be a Chevrolet. The promotional materials produced for the race, as well as every indication, were that he was going to be driving a Chevrolet in the Xfinity Series race. Those plans ultimately changed when the Leland Honeyman deal came up. And I don't know if that had something to do with Perez driving Honeyman's car in the Alpha Prime entry last week and having a great run out there. But one way or the other, Honeyman came over and was driving the number 35 entry, the other Chevrolet that they had on board there. And then basically Perez's equipment had to get pulled out of that and put into either a car that was just not really ready to go or the Toyota they had on hand. They ultimately picked the Toyota. They got everything set up and hooked up okay in there. They had to kind of figure out how to get the wrap to fit because the wrap didn't fit one-to-one from a Chevrolet to a Toyota. But I honestly didn't notice. First time coming down there, I didn't really see the Toyota logo on the rear bumper. But it looked fantastic. I don't know how well it showed on camera, but it really stood out. And I thought that was really cool. So it just really added the factor of being on board there. But yeah, it certainly had the question going into this race. I mean, how is the car going to perform? You had 41 cars for 38 spots. You had all those Cup Series regulars in the field. How are things going to go? So certainly, trying to pay attention to what happened in practice that day was going to be a big story going forward, and then ultimately how qualifying was going to play out. Among the teams that were at the track there, it was great to see Carl Long's team out there. I believe the first time Long has been out at the Sears Point Raceway. I didn't speak to Long himself. He was plenty busy getting Mason Phillippe's entry going there. I did see Carl was there. He did make the trip out here. So I guess he must have made the trip out for Portland last week. But their car was the very last one in the Xfinity Series garage, aside from the Alpha Prime entries that were on the other side of the garage bank there at the same time. But the number 66 car, looked pretty sharp out there, even though it just had kind of the primer black color on it. I'm looking at my pictures here in the background to kind of guide the discussion. I should probably have a way to kind of show this window here. I think that would probably help, although I'm not sure if I want to share every picture that I have in my feed here. Let me see if I can figure out a way to do that. But I'll kind of discuss this here in the meantime. But yeah, again, Mason Phillippe, it was a shame that he didn't ultimately qualify for the race. But again, his family was really cool. I thought they had a good, they seemed to be really supportive and really trying to get some more races out here. They're actually from this area, from the Bay Area. They have some family even that's actually even closer here to LASCAR headquarters area. But they did have some good connections out here to actually run over at Sears Point. But I might try that a little bit later. I think I'm going to have a hard time juggling too many things at once here. So I'll see if I can figure a way to kind of share some of these pictures, or at least share some of them along the way to do that. But maybe we'll do that a little bit later here in this. But where Carl Long's team was lined up was actually right next to where the Hendrick Motorsports entry there for Kyle Larson was, and undoubtedly was the car that everybody was going to be shooting for in this. I think that with Larson's win here in 2021, with how entirely too good he is in the Xfinity car, even at a track like Road America or some of these other tracks that they've decided to bring that number 17 out, that was going to definitely be the challenge at the same time. Looking at the other part of the garage, talk about RSS racing. Interesting to see the number 39 and just a plain black car there, just like Alex Labay's entry in the 29, debuting a new number for the team this past week. They had some associate sponsorship on the 29. A close look at the frame rail on that one actually showed that it was actually a former Richard Childress Racing entry, so I thought that was pretty neat coming into this. But yeah, just kind of looking through the rest of the field here. And checking out the other cars that were entered. One team that was definitely another one that I was kind of keeping an eye on was JD Motorsports. I was very interested in what the carryover would be from Portland, since Brennan Poole was classified last in that race when he had a kind of a minor incident with the tires there in the last corner, pulled his car into the garage area, and unfortunately was classified out of the race, even though the repairs to the brakes were something that the team was actually trying to attempt to get him back out there. Unfortunately, under NASCAR's current rules, the crash clock and so forth, even with them being altered somewhat here for standalone events, that resulted in them just basically loading up early. So early, in fact, that when the number 6 was unloaded here at the track, it still had the same damage on the nose of it. You'll see some pictures from that from over at the track this weekend. You know what? I think I might. Maybe I'll do a pause here and see. I think the pictures would help. Let me see if I could do that because I think that would be something interesting. I'm going to do a pause here on the show, and I'm going to see if I can just mess around with this in the meantime. So just hang on here, folks. Thanks. We will be back here in just a moment. Okay, we're back. You can see it on the loading screen there. I'm going to we're going to have to still do it live here to get the window on, but I think I have the right add source option here. Yeah, I think that would be a good way to share this. Can I add this here? Okay, here we go. Alrighty, so there we go. And what I really want is I want it on the Twitter screen one. Okay, we'll have to undo some of this, but we'll figure that out later. Let's try. You can watch in amazement as I figure this out, hopefully. Well, this will do the window, but I'm not sure if it's going to do. Okay, if I make the picture bigger, that probably won't work, but I could use some of that. See, I didn't want to, I tried the slideshow option, but if I do that, it's just going to start playing some pictures, and maybe I don't want every picture on the feed to be there. But we'll figure this out as best we can here. I think I could just make them bigger in the window, and I think that should do the job pretty well. So let's see. Let's bring that up, and I want that one. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, now what would be great is if I could scroll through this. Well, no, I could scroll through this without seeing too much on there. Be nice if I could preview what the picture I'm going to show before I show it. That would also be helpful, but I don't think we're going to have that option. Yeah, I think we can try this. It's okay. I think it's the shape of the window that's doing that. So let's see, view. Do extra large icons. I think we're already at extra large. Okay. So we'll see if we can kind of compress this. You can see them a little bit, but that's not ideal. There's a way I can kind of... Okay, now if I click one picture, does that bring up the picture? No, that does not. Okay. I'm going to have to do a different function for that one. Is there... Okay, this would be great. If we could do this, we will get... Image. Okay, add images to your scene. Okay, how about that? Okay, add a new source. Okay, I don't really want to do that. Okay, let me see. If I just compress the window, it'll be like one picture at a time. Or, well, it'll be like 3 pictures at a time. Can I make this... Oh, I can make this bigger. Yeah, here we go. Let's do that. Oop. We'll make this bigger. We'll figure this out. Oh, if I make it even bigger than the screen, then I can cut off... Oh, okay, there we go. Then I can cut off what the next picture is. But I'll have to kind of roll past it. I don't think you'll get anything that's not going to work on the show here. But we'll see. Ah, here we go. Now we're going to make it bigger. It's not ideal, but... Oh, okay. There we go. Now we're talking. Okay, now I'm going to have to really... What I need to do is I need to start doing a 2-screen setup here. So I'm trying to do this all on one screen, which is not the best way to do it. But I think we can maybe make this work. All right. And they're all pretty much that size. So we'll just have to get it down. And then we'll do that. So let me test this here a little bit. Okay, that's not bad. Okay, this will be good, because then I can actually point at things. Yeah, we don't have to... Okay, showing us as folders. Yeah, I know. Hopefully we don't have all... I'm not showing you all my folders. We can't have that on this show. Well, actually, it probably isn't really that big a deal. But yeah, I'm going to have to roll past some stuff here. But probably not too much. It wasn't that kind of weekend. But we'll see here. Okay, the audio listeners got to be losing their minds. Okay, we'll figure this out. Okay, I got kind of the scroll right below the screen, and I think we'll be set up. Okay. So this shot here, and again, it's a little fuzzy because it's gonna be kind of a preview, but I think we can make that work. So here's again the setup. Can you see the icon on the screen? So everybody can see this, right? You can see the picture with the 28 car and the 39 car. And can you see my hand? Okay, you can't see my hand, my icon moving over. I have to move it down here. Okay, so you can see the icon moving over it. So I'm kind of pointing at everything. Okay, this will be good. Okay, I think I can make this work. Okay, we'll see if this works. Better than FS1 production. Yeah, no kidding. Alrighty. So, okay. So here we go. So first of all, we talked about the Eric Almirola car. So you got it right here. This is that big white hauler that was behind, and it had Riley Herbst's car. And of course, you can see everything in front of it here is nothing but Smithfield equipment. So it's pretty clear just from all the context clues that we don't have a full RSS car. But given the outcome of this, I got to say, I mean, I'm excited for Rod Sieg and the folks over at the RSS racing team. I think this was tremendous for them, and I think it's a good way to do a different way to, kind of actually check out what's happening at the track there. So, the fact that this team actually pulled off a win one way or the other. And again, some of it, it's a tinge of, it's a bit of different, given how, I mean, we're kind of skipping around here, of course, going to the actual end of the Xfinity race, but the Sieg family, I was going to save this, but I'm going to go ahead and just mention it now. The Sieg family are probably the most down-to-earth people I've talked to. And I did have the good fortune to talk with them this weekend. I actually have some audio recording of it. So I'll go ahead and share this story now. So Almirola wins the Xfinity race. Spoiler alert. 28 car wins. You got, doing donuts and the celebrations out front there. So I'm watching most of this from kind of the start-finish line. And I kind of work my way back over to the Xfinity garage after to kind of just see what's happening back there. And, I wanted to talk to Kyle Sieg because I was interested in, first of all, I wanted to, of course, congratulate the family on pulling off this victory here. At least, it's certainly going to show that way in the results. But at the same time, I was also curious about Kyle Sieg because he was going to run the 29 car this weekend. He was also going to run the K&N race. And I wanted to kind of figure out what was happening in between here. Didn't ultimately Couldn't really figure it out. And ultimately, I did talk to Kyle. So Kyle was there, and Ryan Sieg were hanging out behind the hauler. Of course, they were excited, and they were happy. They were talking to each other. And I kind of started talking to Kyle, then I was kind of talking to Ryan. When I talked to Ryan, he says, no, you're going to have to talk to the team owner here, and I was like, whoa, hang on, because I had my recorder. Now, what I should have done at this point is bring my phone out and start taping it, because what happened was he led me over. There's a fence. Of course, there's kind of a caged area there for the Xfinity garage. He led me over to a fence, and right there were Ryan's parents. You got Rod Sieg. I didn't get his wife's name, but both of them were standing by there, and they weren't out at Victory Lane, or at least I don't know if they even went by there or not. But this was pretty close to after the end of the race. I mean, inspection was already underway for the cars then. Maybe they did make it out and they worked their way back. It wouldn't be impossible from where we were standing. But I was listening to the recording that I had of it, and I thought I heard Rod say something to the effect of, I don't really want to be out there. I don't want to deal with all that, which I thought was kind of strange. At least you're still listed as the team owner there. But they were really friendly. I mean, Ryan Sieg at one point said, boy, I just wish I was the guy, first guy to win for the team. But, laughing it off and just, really, they're really cool people out there at the track. And they were all certainly happy about what was happening. I still got to figure out what I'm going to do with the audio clip. I should have filmed it there, but it was really cool, again, because I spoke with Ryan Sieg once when he finished last at Vegas a couple of years ago. I don't think we spoke much more than that, but they were, and I'm sure them being excited over winning a race with any of their cars, one way or the other, they were plenty excited about that. But they were really, really friendly about that, and I really appreciated that. So if they happen to be watching the show, very, very much appreciative of that. So we got the Connor Mosack car here. Some of the other cars through the field. Oh, this is gonna be tricky. It's gonna move really quick through these pictures. Okay, maybe this. Okay. Oh, what I need to do is I need to move this over here. Okay, you can see kind of the last car logo on the 53. So we got that there. Again, showed off really nicely. Let's see. Daniel Suarez's car that got penalized there towards the end of the Xfinity race there as well. So let's see. What's a good way to kind of jump through this? I have to make this taller just so I can do that. Yeah. I need more scroll control on this. It's going to just kind of jump around. Okay. Yeah, that's not too bad. I guess I could see like 3 pictures below this, so that's probably good enough. Alrighty. The Alpha Prime team came over the track. I know I got a little bit of a hard time from those guys. They said, hey, Brock, no, we got here quick. We got here with everybody else. But obviously the team still tried to figure out some things with their haulers. They had that really difficult exodus out to Portland here last week and really trying to figure out what was happening with their haulers. Apparently one of them, the one that Leland Honeyman's car from Portland was still on, had a real problem with flat tires frequently. It's actually still, as we speak, it's still sitting at the track right now because they're trying to actually get some repairs made on it. I don't know if they have somebody traveling out to meet them or if they're finding a local place to get it fixed. But that's going to be kind of a process they're going to be working on during this off time before Nashville here in a couple weeks. So that'll be kind of another thing to look at coming up here. Let's see. I got some shots of Ryan Sieg's car there. This, unfortunately, your last place finisher of the race, the Funkaway number 31 okay, that kind of works pretty well. It's skipping like every boop, boop, boop. There we go, 31 car. There we go. Now I think we got the scroll going. I love this paint scheme. I'm so glad they brought the 31 car back with this scheme because it looked just so nice out there. I really liked how this one came out. I think that the accent with the cloud around the number and everything just made it really stand out. Unfortunately, the weekend didn't go too well for them. We'll get into that certainly with the Xfinity race here. I'll pull up race results here at the same time. That's not going to interfere with this, is it? No, I don't think that will. So we'll kind of get that figured out along the way. 26. Jeremy Clement's car there as well. Ty Gibbs. Let's see. Got kind of more of the individual cars here. Let me see if I can get some more here. Okay, so I was starting to kind of talk about the Portland car here. This is, again, the shot of the nose of Brennan Poole's car. Oh, there we go. I'll use this arrow instead. So you can kind of see the dent a little bit here, kind of right around this spot here. So, yeah, the car was basically in exactly the same shape it was from the last start that it made that previous week. And they just loaded it back up because really the only problem they had was it was leaking some brake fluid. They had to seal off the system and get that going again. So basically they had to spend, the rest of that week just kind of making those repairs. Here's another kind of side shot of that same car. I had said originally, and I heard that this was originally going to be the same car Morgan Shepherd ran in May of 2020, but big thanks again to Case Cullenback there, the team's crew chief there, that cleared up that it was in fact the number 4 car's backup, which was their Portland car, the one that Garrett Smithley, I believe, finished 24th in. We got some pictures of that. You'll see that a little bit later here as well. But it was really cool to see the effort that they put forward there to kind of keep that car out in the mix. But the car was not needed. The number 4 car that Ty Dillon drove was not that same car. So they had a good run there at the same time. But looking further down here, we got to certainly talk about this. So Anthony Alfredo's accident, certainly one of the big moments there from the weekend. Massive impact. So glad that he got back out of that one okay. You think about, let me get this pulled up a little easier here. There we go. Kind of see some of that. There we go. Kind of a view of kind of the nose damage there on that. Absolutely shocking. I mean, I was just in the media center when that happened there. But going into turn 1, we've seen, you see those old clips there, like in the montage playing from last week, and seeing the cars spinning out in that corner, and they would hit a concrete barrier and flip over. Things have changed in that corner since then. I mean, the first big issue is that they sealed off the drag strip at the start-finish line. It's actually much narrower at the start-finish line than it used to be. This ended up being a factor in Sunday's last-place finisher for Denny Hamlin. But at this same point, what it used to be is the cars could swing all the way onto the drag strip. Like the part of the track that is the start-finish line was still there until maybe about 10, 15 years ago. I think actually the Infineon reconfiguration with the new grandstands was a big part of this. But you could actually have that so wide there that you could basically come off turn 11 and you could really just swing out into this runoff into the drag strip and just come into turn 1 with a ton of speed. And you would come into that corner way faster than they do now. It seems like they go into it fast now, but this is nothing. I mean, the way it used to be, and the grandstands used to be on the opposite side, so they would be coming like right at you off of turn 11. You could see them come through that corner and then just wind up and just come right back down there. I think with the reduced number of actual souvenir haulers and everything, they probably still should have grandstands on the other side of the track. I think it would be a huge view. They weren't nearly as tall as the big building that they have at the facility now. But I still think that's one of the best views of the track. I certainly do miss that because you could get the experience of the cars coming up behind you too. You can still get that to an extent from where the souvenir haulers are, but of course all the haulers are there, so you don't get a clear view of it, and you're not high enough to really kind of see the cars coming at you. That's one of the things that's kind of missing from the track. But the relevance to this discussion here is that, the cars used to be going way faster into it, and the risk of flips and serious hits, you think of Mark Martin in 89, you think of the 2 flips in 1999, that was certainly the case. But nowadays, you have, of course, that narrowing of the front stretch. You have the concrete barriers that really kind of protect most of that runoff leading up to the pedestrian bridge there. And we saw the accident with Casey Kane and Kevin O'Connell, I believe 2017, if I remember correctly. The race basically had that wreck happen on the very last lap. Didn't ultimately affect the outcome of the race, but Casey Kane's car bounced off the outside wall there, ripped the right side of it off, much like you saw with Alfredo's car. And a scary incident. Luckily, he was okay, but it still showed that there could be real hazards in that corner, even with the cars not going as fast as maybe they necessarily could. But this was certainly the case here. The number 78 got into the outside wall, this time with a hung throttle. I still haven't heard clearly as to what caused that throttle to hang. in practice going into the wall, but it did just a massive amount of damage. And I know there's plenty of pictures that were posted out here, but here were some of mine from that. They brought it in on the flatbed soon after there. But the damage to even like the foam on the door or the frame on the door was pretty startling here. You have this kind of opening where this opening here, excuse me, where the material is kind of pulled away there. But just a scary situation. So glad Anthony was out of there. Certainly frustrated. I mean, he's had such a strong start to the year, and he said as much in his interview basically in the closing laps of the Xfinity race back on Saturday. But they not exactly sure what the reason is for their bad luck, but through the partnership with BJ McLeod, and then I'm sure they're getting some quality equipment elsewhere there that's been helping them. The great rally he had at Phoenix back in the spring race. But he said straight up in the quotes in the NASCAR article, last 8 weeks or so, they don't know what's been going on. And they just had bad luck 1 week to the next. And this was certainly another example of that. This next picture here, you see Anthony here in the black uniform talking with the NASCAR officials there after that happened. Here's another view of kind of the other side of the car here. Let's bring that back down and kind of see the damage to the rear clip of it there as well. But yeah, just a scary situation there to kind of lead things off. Maybe kind of wonder if we were going to have more issues of that in the Xfinity Series race as well. But unfortunately, that wasn't really the case, at least not from what I saw there. So other shots here of the 78 car. Let's see, we got more here from the Xfinity Series garage. I talked a little bit about Mason Philippi before bringing the pictures up here at the same time. Big thanks again to him and his family for speaking with me. I mean, families was kind of the trend here. I don't know if it was just because of the off weekend coming up, but so many people were just like so excited to be at the track and seeing everything there and bringing everybody with them. And that was really cool. So again, I got to meet Mason Philippi. His wife was there. His sister was there. Just, so much of the family out there at the track. But of course, again, like I said, they live very close out there. It would have been great to see them get in the show there. Unfortunately, they didn't. But openfender.com, he talked a bit about the sponsor that the company, it's Philippi's own company. It's actually an effort to help young drivers get sponsorship of their own. So that was kind of a big deal from that. So that's why you always see that sponsorship there. If you remember, that was actually the same sponsor that was the primary on the number 46 last year when he was driving for G2G. So it was cool to talk with him again. I think you actually remembered me from last year, so that was kind of a different deal there. Let me know if this is working for you guys. Are you okay with this? If this is boring you, just let me know. We can just go into the race stuff itself. But the stuff in between, I think I always look at the pictures as kind of a refresher to remember what happened from this past weekend. Here's that frame rail again from the number 28. I think the next picture is actually a better shot. Yeah, you can kind of see the chassis number here on this one. But this is the, double click it there, chassis 058 in the full picture here. But that was exactly where the number 28 car came from. And the paint scheme turned out to not be coincidental. I know Michael Roberts Construction was a sponsor, much like it was with the actual sponsorship for Zane Smith in the truck series. And it turned out that wasn't coincidental, because it wasn't just the sponsorship. According to Rod Sieg there, that they are going to have Zane Smith in one of their cars. I believe this car number, the 28, for the upcoming race at Nashville in the Xfinity Series. So that'll be huge for him. Zane's just getting more and more seat time, and he's really capitalizing on it. I know he struggled a bit on Sunday with that loose wheel there that kind of changed the complexion of some of the Cup Series race there as well. But that'll be something to look forward to coming up. Next year, I have kind of some of the West Series entries here. So this is more Ben's department here, but you can kind of see some of the teams from that. So we kind of worked our way up the grid and got some more of the pictures. Got Vincent Del Forge's logo on a lot of the cars here, which is cool to see. I really like this number 70 car, Kyle Keller's car here. I like this little trim they did on the rim here. Unfortunately, noticeably absent from the field was Bobby Hillis Jr., who ran that beautiful neon car here a few years ago. Unfortunately, that team suspended operations there with sponsorship issues. Hopefully, it's just until next time, whenever that moment is. I know they're running over at Roseville and everything coming up, so we'll have some more coming up here at the same time. But yeah, I think this will be another way to hopefully they come back out, because I think they had a good race there this weekend, even though Ryan Preece was definitely the favorite going through it. Dale Quarterly's entry here. Ben's really high on Quarterly in particular. I think one of his first interviews was with him there back east. So it was cool to kind of get some pictures of this team too. In fact, excuse me, I just received Ben's article there for ARCA West, so that'll be coming to the website very soon here. We'll have the discussion of the last place finisher from that event. But let's see here. So we got more of the K&N West cars. Here's ultimately the last place finisher from that race. I believe it was Trevor Huddleston, if I remember the name correctly there. Finished last in that one, but it was not, although last among the starters, at least the starters that started the race. So that would be kind of a different situation there from some of the others. We got some of Last Bro's pictures in here. He was in turn 7, so that's where this one kind of came from here. Let's see. Oh, yeah, this was kind of the first close call of the weekend. So this number 2 car here, early in the, so the ARCA West race starts. Ryan Preece dominated it. Congratulations to him for pulling off the victory in that one. I think that was huge for him, especially after the black flag that he had a couple of years ago. There was that great picture that Luis Torres took of me trying to get an interview with him, and he said no comment, and I was just kind of asking, what he was going to go. I could have been more persistent there. Claire B. Lang and everybody else were pretty quick to kind of get that interview afterwards. I got kind of some other news to kind of talk about in terms of media coverage this weekend, because that was kind of a little bit of a story here too. But I watched the start of the K&N race from pit road. There's this gate down here, because when you walk down, there's a downhill slope that leads from the garage area to pit road. So actually, if you fall out of the race, you have to kind of get your car up a pretty steep grade just to get to where the Cup garage is. And then the Cup garage was actually where the K&N teams were staged, because they were going to be out of there Friday night, and the Cup teams could come in for their 2 days and so forth. You have to go even further to get to the Xfinity garage. But this number 2 car here, I'm standing up here. It looks like I'm a lot closer than I am. This railing here in the foreground here is probably about another 4 or 5 feet from this railing, which is good, because when this 2 car backed up, it backed up directly into this fence, and it knocked the fence over and kind of pushed it up against, a little bit closer to this. There was a cone there, so they had to kind of stop the car. They had to push it forward. They had to do a 3-point turn to kind of get it back around. But a little bit of kind of a hairy moment there, kind of scratched the paint there a bit. They had to get somebody else up here to kind of start getting the gate back out of the way. But then eventually, here's kind of a view of that hill. Let's see, in this next shot. Yeah, there you go. You can kind of see where you go up here. It looks flat in this shot, but it absolutely isn't. See, this building here, this is the media building here. This ground floor is where the cafeteria is. And this window is pretty close to level here, but down here is even further. There's a big drop down here. This whole building really, the one drawback with it, it's a beautiful building. It's named after John Cardinal, who sadly we lost too soon to cancer a few years ago. He's the media coordinator over at the track. But the drawback with the building itself is that it is a little, it kind of gets in the way of the view of turn 11 from the grandstands. This isn't the only thing. The garage kind of does it too, which is just to the right of this building. But that's kind of the difference. This large drop off. There's much more of this building below the ground floor here, and that kind of gives an expression of the incline. But then, okay, there you go. I want to kind of line this up a little better so I can kind of just use the roller to get from one picture to the next. There we go. Okay. So this is the same 2 car in the garage. They had a transmission problem. They had somebody hop in the passenger side of this car, and the car was shaking because you could see him really trying to get the thing out of gear. Something was just not working right there with that, and they were fighting with it, and then they ultimately just pushed it up the hill. The last place finisher was this car here, or at least based on a did not start. Again, did not starts are so common in the West Series. Ben has kind of changed. We talked about this at length here, but really it seemed like, to kind of get you guys some more content, we just kind of focus on whoever's the last place finisher of the ones that start. Did not starts are much more rare in the top 3 series, so I don't mind having that kind of be in my statistics. But for the West articles, it's every week. There were like 2 cars that didn't start Portland. There was this car here, this 46 car didn't start here, and it had this was going to be Kyle Sieg's car, but when Sieg was swapped out for Alex Labbe, because Labbe had more road course background, they ultimately withdrew from running this number 46 car. And it's originally entered under this, apparently he's a drift car driver, somebody told me, with a complete mouthful of a name here. I'm sure I'm going to butcher it here. Riznowicki in the 46 car. I don't even know if he was at the track, if they even had, since they seem to have Kyle Sieg in the car. Apparently they did, because they had somebody in the car during practice, and one crew member told me they spun a bearing in the engine, and that was enough to actually take him out of the race. So ultimately, they credited the last place finish not with Sieg, who was ultimately going to be swapped into the car, but with him instead. So that ended up being the situation there. At the same time, a little bit afterwards, the McNally entry pulled into the garage and dropped this piece of equipment. And again, big thanks to those of you that were following along there during this race and talking about this being part of the ball joint there, and an issue with either the screws being stripped off or something to that effect. But basically, once this 16 car, if I can get it just in the shot here, so you can see it, you can kind of see it not that well. There you go. So this car pulled in, and the right front was tucked under the fender pretty good. It's all covered in grass. You can't really see in this shot here. But yeah, the crew members came in, and they pulled that little piece off, and they kind of threw it right behind him. It was just I had to kind of make sure I was not standing in the way there. But then they started getting a new piece on there, and that was kind of their work there at the same time. So they retrieved this, and we're kind of checking that out. But I got a couple shots of that there at the same time. There you go. So if you're, as you can tell, I'm not as versed in the nuts and bolts of this here. But the concept of a ball joint, I mean, that came up in the J.D. McDuffie book for sure, and a slightly different assembly in the suspension back then versus now. So it's kind of interesting to see the modern equivalent of it here. But that's definitely the part that came off of that car. I got a good view of the trophies here in the infield. Denny Hamlin had a good discussion. I was listening to his podcast on the way back. I definitely had to after the outcome of Sunday's race there. And he was talking about some of the most beautiful trophies of the track. Of course, you have the chalice here that people drink the wine out of in Victory Lane. So that came in there as well. We got Huddleston's car here, the number 50 that pulled behind the wall. The 46 team, when they didn't start the race, this is about like 2/3 of the way through the race. They actually had some pictures they were taking, some team photos. So I kind of jumped into that. They got a couple other people on the team there that were along there. So that was kind of neat to see. So you have like kind of some teams that, even again, stuff you just don't see. I mean, there's nobody else back there. You got a couple of their, people on their team taking pictures and stuff. And so I got some of that. But again, stuff you'd never know from watching the broadcast, even with, Flow Racing and these other services out there. It's interesting to kind of see what things look like back there. A couple other cars pulled out of the race. I was in the garage when these guys were coming in. Let's see if I can get this. So here's Parker Retzlaff's car, Randy Young entry that he was in. I believe it was a suspension problem on his car. And then we got Ryan Philpott's car, the number 52. These were kind of pushed back behind the wall at the same time. I think the 52 had the engine still going, but the 02 didn't. So they were done for the day. Other cars that fell out. Here's kind of some debris left behind. I think this was off the 16 that was left there. Was really impressed with, I think Comiskey was his name, the 80 car. Made that amazing save in turn 10. I thought that was really impressive. He banged wheels with Todd Souza going through that corner and skated off the track and still managed to avoid what would have been a pretty big hit. Turn 10 has wadded up many cars out there. You usually don't go sideways there or in any position to save it. But unfortunately, the car also damaged the axle in the process. I talked to Comiskey after he pulled behind the wall there, and remarked about, like, how do you save that car? But he only talked about just the damage that he suffered in the race and ultimately took him out of the event. And that was that. So unfortunately didn't turn out that way. Here's Nascimiento's number 4 car there with the damage to the nose. Got some other cars. There's Comiskey's number 80 there at the same time. I got the interview on that with a couple of these. Still getting practice with doing the interviews. I'm more comfortable with just using the voice recorder, but I know the video interviews are kind of really the trend right now. So I did a bit more of those this weekend. I won't play them on here because I don't want to confuse the computer anymore. But I have pretty much all the video interviews I've done. I posted on my Twitter feed, which is, again, at Last Car on Brock. If you haven't checked that out, so that's definitely on there at the same time. Definitely downloaded some pictures here. These aren't pictures I took, but these are other ones they took at the 53. And I think this shot here, I particularly like these here. In the full version of this, you can see the Last Car logo on the B pillar pretty well. So we got myself with the Apex hat. This was neat. You had the pictures there for the Legacy Motor Club. They included Enfinger's Truck Series cards here as well in the Jimmy Johnson slot. Johnson, of course, participating in the 24 Hours Le Mans this weekend. Congratulations to Garage 56 and the tremendous effort out there. Finishing that race under power is no small accomplishment. I think they accomplished everything they wanted to and more. They certainly got a ton of attention from the race out there, not just from the engine note, but from everything. And as much as I know other teams are not happy about it still, and I don't blame them for being as upset as they were when NASCAR just kind of dropped this and said, hey, we're going to do the 24 Hours Le Mans, and we already picked Hendrick and they're already doing it, and you other guys don't need to ask about it or anything. I don't blame them, but at the same time, I know it's huge for the sport. Hopefully it gains even more attention for international drivers to participate in the sport. Obviously, even Denny Hamlin himself had his ace in the hole this week with Kamui Kobayashi landing the number 67 entry for the Indy Road Course coming up, and I know that's going to be really exciting. I'm glad that 67 is staying around, not just because it's Buddy Arrington's number, which is a big reason I'm excited about it, but also I'm glad that it wasn't just a one-and-done deal, and they're kind of keeping that team out here. So I'm glad they were able to kind of stay competitive in the sport and kind of have an answer to Project 91 like we've seen with Trackhouse. I think that was a great effort there. And so hopefully they keep doing that going forward. Let me, as an aside, I'll kind of go into the K&N results here. So again, Ryan Preece, your winner. Sammy Smith in the second spot. Riley Herbst driving number 5 car there for Jerry Pitts in third. Jack Wood and William Sawalik bringing out your top 5 there. It was Stefan Riznowicki that was credited with the DNS there, but Trevor Huddleston, your last place finisher there in the 28th spot. Good entry list of 29 cars out there. Seem to be very physical out there, certainly with even drivers like Cole Custer back in the order there at the same time, finishing back in the 18th position there. But congratulations to Preece on that. I know it seemed more like kind of an open and shut race at the same time, but still it was good to see the other competitors up there. And again, as much as I'm not a fan of the top division drivers in the lower series, I know for Preece in particular, that's going to be a big deal for him going forward. So let's see here. I think this is still okay. No, we got the Cup cars. That's more Saturday content there. So. Friday was really cool. Again, meeting a lot of people there at the track. I appreciate everybody that came by and jumping into Saturday. I'm gonna have to say though, for next year at Sears Point, we're gonna have to change our strategy a little bit in terms of the commute. As I've said before, Lastbro is actually trained as a long haul trucker, and he and I have traded off rides on a lot of these these races where we go into Phoenix or Vegas or anything like that. But we used to live about an hour from the racetrack. Now we live about 2 hours from the racetrack, and trying to commute from home just didn't work this year. I'll tell you what, we both got back here about midnight the last 2 nights, and we left at like 6 in the morning, 6 or 7 in the morning on Sunday, and it was just too much of a haul. I mean, we were both kind of just trading off afterwards. We went to just Applebee's after the Sunday race there, and we're just kind of falling asleep. So it was like, okay, we're doing a hotel next year, and that's gonna be the plan on that. So that's a whole other deal there at the same time. So but we got through. Friday didn't seem so bad. I thought after Friday, when we were driving back home and we got back out, we were listening to music and stuff. Kamikaze Games, we listened to his album. Definitely pick it up if you haven't already. That's why I was sharing a picture of that on there. Really cool. And again, Kamikaze, one of my supporters in the Patreon there, and I really appreciate his support. I always enjoy his content. I know he doesn't do as much NASCAR stuff, but I always get a kick out of it there. He actually had a very profound video just recently about like the effect we all have on the world around us. I won't give too much of it away because he expresses it better than I can here, but kudos to him on that. That was kind of the great thing. Everybody just seemed having a great time this weekend. It always, I mean, how could you not have a great time at a racetrack? But it seems silly to say. But that was really the environment. And I think there was an uptick in just the amount of people there, especially on Sunday. I mean, you're always going to have that. But everybody was having just a tremendous time, it seemed. So going through the pictures here again, this is more into Saturday. So we got more of the Xfinity cars and the people testing engines and so forth. Some other good paint schemes here along the way. If I could just kind of get this. Okay, there we go. So front view of Mason Phillippe's car. I was interested in this Blaine Perkins paint scheme here. A different sponsor on the hood. Here's the Morgan Shepherd car that's coming up here. Again, big thanks to Case Collenbach on this. Got these pictures here. There's also a fantastic shot. See, the JD Motorsports haulers, they don't have it where you can't really see where the car is loaded on top of you there. But here you can actually kind of look under it, and I thought that was pretty hip. You can't really see it in this thumbnail here, but there's like the old NASCAR logo on the fuel cell. And it looks, I'm sure the underside of any car is going to be dingy or kind of dirty and stuff, especially one that was just raced like this one was at Portland there. But this is the last car that Morgan Shepherd entered in an Xfinity race, which was May of 2020 at Darlington during the first weekend back from the pandemic. But it is still around. JD Motorsports helped out Morgan down the stretch there, and this was a different deal there at the same time. So, but it's cool to see this kind of history there. History was kind of a little bit of the theme from the weekend. I didn't talk about this. Oh, no, I think this might still be Friday. Because this is the backup car. Oh, no, maybe, it's 6/10. So, yeah, so it has the date stamp here. So it is Saturday. So we talked a little bit about Anthony Alfredo's car. The backup was, of course, their Portland car. Like I'm sure a lot of these teams were. They were coming way out west to run these two races. Alfredo's car was beat to heck. In fact, the tire marks are just everywhere. This part here was kicked in, like just pushed in really bad. A bit of damage to the splitter as well. This is on Saturday after they did repairs. You can't do anything about the tire marks. It's mostly a black paint scheme anyway. It kind of covers it up anyway. But they pulled the dent out here. They took care to do that. Made adjustments to the car as best they could, and had a car that ultimately didn't finish in last place. I mean, they didn't start and park this race at all. They were trying to just do everything they could to stay in the race. But that'll be definitely part of this too. I'll talk more about what happened in the last place battle here in a little bit, but I'll kind of show some, maybe what I'll do is I'll do a race review, and then I'll pull up the pictures from that and kind of do that at the same time. We got some more Brad Perez pictures in here. There's going to be a ton of those in this. There you go. Just a beautiful car, man. Really, really lucked out on that one. I think this is, when Diego was trying to talk to AJ Allmendinger there too. That was pretty cool. Diego, big fan of the site there. Love to get the picture with you, man. Big Noah Gragson fan out there. Unfortunately, Gragson not in the race, of course, with the injury last week. He was one story I was really looking forward to covering this weekend. Still enjoyed talking to Grant Enfinger, though. I guess we'll get into that more as we go along here, too. But we got that, so that was pretty neat. Let's see, we got the clips for Brad Perez. Big thanks for him for doing the race reviews. Spoke to me after qualifying as well as after the race. Brad qualifies 31st of the race, so kudos to him on that and getting in there. Big thanks also to both Leland Honeyman and Mason Phillippe that spoke to me. I know that Honeyman in particular was certainly disappointed. That's him there on the screen. But big thanks to both of them for talking to me here, and we did their interviews. I know I didn't get Brennan Poole. That was the third DNQ. It was not at all because he refused it or anything. I just didn't catch him. I was catching Brad Perez and a few others there. I'm sure if I asked Brennan, it would have been no problem there. I've spoken with him before. But got to 2 of the 3 DNQs there. And again, if you're interested in those interviews, those are up on the site at the same time. Here's Mason. This is Mason Philippi in this shot here. Kind of see the other teams load up. Jeffrey Earnhardt had a group of fans there behind the scenes. This is a bunch of fans there, brought out a good luck Jeffrey sign out here. A lot of the team members were signing it. I know Gabe Wood was out there. Again, another big fan of the site. I appreciate his support. He was out there. I should have, I tell you, man, I just got out of the media lunchroom there before I went over to this team, and he offered me a taco, and I should have done it, man, because usually the teams make just some killer food out there. I still think about the sandwich I got from GMS Racing when I saw Spencer Gallagher at Phoenix a couple of years ago. But I'll take a rain check on that. I'm going to have to get that next time, man. Or whatever you guys are cooking up there over at Phoenix there in a few months. The 43 car I mentioned was still on the hauler. This is that car. This is, of course, the car that Brad Perez took over for after Leland Honeyman had food poisoning. Perez got back in that car and was about 13th place when he got into the tire barriers. They had to transfer this car to another hauler because, of course, the hauler repairs I was kind of mentioning. Any pictures of the 48 team from the Xfinity car? I think I got a shot of him on there because Kligerman had a good run in that race for sure. I'll see if I have that in here. Got more shots of Brad Perez. This is Andy Lally's interview. Grant Enfinger. They had this old Bill Elliott car outside the Raceway Cafe. This is just outside Turn 11 by the fuel pumps here. So that was, they always have a classic car parked out there. They had Bobby Allison's car, again, from 88, that was parked on the other side of the paddock, but they brought that by. I really enjoyed talking with Grant Enfinger again, and I'm glad that he answered my question on Seneca Motorsports. I was going to follow up with that and have him tell me more about what exactly went wrong. I know he mentioned that was a team that he didn't really want to think more about and just kind of a deal he jumped on. But I'd love to hear more about it if it wasn't just this group, because what they do is they bring these drivers in and they have like 5 or 6, usually have like a bunch of media there that are waiting to kind of get their questions asked. And so usually I just kind of ask one question in there, and if I get mine, then that's good enough for me. I don't want to really take away from everybody else, but hopefully we'll set up something there, and I'd love to be able to get the rest of the story on that because it sounds like it's kind of quite the story there at the same time. Andy Lally was really cool too, and talking about 2011 and his last run out there, but good to see him back in the field. So getting ready for Saturday's race, this is my view of the 53 car from the media center. This time you can actually get a view of the roof and the Lou Creatives logo. Harris Lou again did. Look at this. Look at all these lines. Even on a body it wasn't designed for. Look how nice that shape comes out. See how you have like this white line here, and then it comes up to this point and it just disappears. It looks like it's 2-dimensional, but it's 3-dimensional across this. I mean, it's just gorgeous. I just love this car. I'm afraid my own artist rendering of it here is a little bit more of a simplification of it. But again, I think it just came out just beautiful. Down here too, I also have another picture of the 78 car on the grid. So this is before the race, and the car looked, if I can get it in the shot. Can I get it in the shot? Can I get it in the shot? There it is. So yeah, with the tire marks on there. The only car on the grid that had that much on there before the race. So again, kudos to the BJ McLeod team. I mean, that was really difficult. They just had a day to turn this car around and get it back into the field here. But looking back there at the same time. So you got some of the other cars through the field. Ryan Sieg says in our view of Brad Perez's car, and there are a few of them there. There's Brad with his family here. His mother and father coming out wearing the same hats. So that was cool. And so I definitely had to get mine on the grid there beforehand. So that was pretty neat. You got another one here later on. I think it should be in the same folder here where it was Brad and Ben and myself there at the same time. So we got that after the race. So that was cool. So I hope they make this a diecast. I don't know. We'll see what happens here. So my staging point here, this is from turn 11. So this basically where I watched the start of the Xfinity race. They had this massive trailer there with this big screen. Oh, I'm sorry, I used the wrong hand here. This big screen here is visible by the Turn 11 Hospitality. That's that new permanent building they introduced last year, which has like a grassy area in front. They did the West Coast Hall of Fame banquet there, I believe Thursday night for that. So that was kind of part of it. But they have this TV screen that you can watch from there. They're having some technical issues with this on Sunday. But the pit wall is like right here, and it's really low. But you get this dynamite view if you kind of look to the right. Oh, and I think this next shot will show it right here of Turn 11. And you got, of course, here's the width of pit road, and there's Turn 11, and this is the cars coming off the corner here. And it looks like they're further away than they are. They're like really close. So you get this wonderful shot. But they always shooed me away. I only got to be there for maybe about 15 laps. And then I had to go to the other side of this, which was way more crowded. They had an open spot. But it was still kind of good because you could look up at Turn 11. This, you're kind of right at the apex. These tires are like right past where like the starting line where it starts to go straight again. I was amazed walking through this corner after Sunday how much rubber was laid down. I know Denny Hamlin talked about in his podcast today about how much of the teams were running the paint, certainly knocking these tire stacks out of the way. But there was still a ton of rubber in the track, especially close to that paint. And you know, certainly the paint was rubbed off quite a bit. Of course, that was redone there before the race weekend. You have a gold and like a kind of like an olive green kind of paint scheme there on the rumble strips now, which is a little different. But that we'll show that a little bit later here. Let's see. Here we go. You can see this a little bit better. Okay, that's back up there. There we go. You can kind of see a little bit better the cars coming off the corner. It's really cool because you get these great shots. There's Joe Graff Jr. when he was last at the beginning of it. So I guess we could jump into the last place battle here at this point. So let me get the race results pulled up so I can get the sequence of events here. Okay, so this is definitely going to require some of these pictures here at the same time. So Joe Graff Jr. is your last place starter of the race. He's also running in last for the first part of it. He starts to kind of lose ground with the other starters here, and he's further back. Josh Berry breaks down in turn 7, stalls the car, brings the caution out. They bring his car in. He gets to get a push through the S's. He coasts onto pit road completely. Again, engine still completely shut off. Comes down pit road out of view because there's a kink, of course, at turn 12. And past that, of course, is the media center, which from the other direction kind of blocks your view of turn 1. So further down there, he's trying to get to his pit stall. The car stops again. Everybody has to drive around him to get out of the pit stall there. Apparently some close calls. I got to still see the footage there to figure out what was happening. But he gets onto pit road. I thought they were going to send him to the garage area, which meant they would have had to push him up that hill again to get back in there. But apparently they were able to make the repairs and send him back out there. At the same time, you had Parker Retzlaff, had an issue of his own with the transmission. When I spoke to him, it sounded like it was happening in turn 7. I know a lot of teams were having issues in turn 7 at the time. Let me get our picture on here so you can kind of see it a little better. This is Jeffrey Earnhardt, who had kind of caved in the nose of his car there a little bit at the beginning. But Retzlaff ended up going behind the wall. The first car back there, they had to really fix an issue with the shifter. Let me see if I can get down there in the sequence. I think most of these are just the early laps where Joe Graff is kind of keeping up with the back of the field. Okay, here we go. Here's Josh Berry. Nope, that's not Berry. Let me bring that up. Can I click to it? No, that's not quite it. Okay. Oh, yeah, we got to talk about Connor Mosack, too. Let's get... Okay, that's a little better. Yeah, okay, there we go. There's Berry's car. So that one's... right when I was taking this picture, he was literally just coasting. As you can see, the truck's not directly behind him. So this is why he was just coasting to a stop on pit road, and I'm sure they thought he could get the rest of the way, but he ultimately couldn't. So a flurry of activity happened. This is where it's really challenging. So I couldn't stand by the TV, so I couldn't see the scoring. I'm way far away from the scoring pylon. So at this point, I've been using the app on the phone, and luckily it started to kind of load the results. It was a bigger problem on Sunday when it just wouldn't load until about 30 laps into the race, and by then, so much more had been happening. But the 8 car came down pit road here, and I couldn't see what was going on, but I could see the number 24 come in here, and the engine just sounded really off. It sounded like he was either on, like he had either dropped a cylinder or something. But then one of the crew members came out, some guy in sunglasses. He came out of this pit stall, and he just shouted something. He like punched one of the pit boxes there, and somebody else, the crew, had to kind of cool him down there. I'm sure it was because they either had some kind of mechanical issue. I can't blame him for being frustrated because Mosak had such a good run out at Portland. This was not the Portland car, though. This was a different car. The Portland car was their backup, like I'm sure a lot of the teams were. I was wondering if they fixed the left front fender after the damage they got on the first lap of the Portland race. But this was a different one. But maybe they should have run the Portland car because this one was apparently holding up traffic there kind of at the end. I know Brad Perez was dealing with that. So 24 finally gets away, and I'm hearing over the radio that the 31 car is behind the wall. So now I'm going over to the Xfinity garage. Now, the Xfinity garage is behind the Cup garage in a area. We've seen some of the pictures here earlier in this slideshow. That's kind of a gated area near the shuttle stops to the left of all like the souvenir haulers and stuff like that. And behind the main grandstands, the large grandstands you see with the press box and everything. So you're not really going to see what's happening here unless you're back there or you're right behind the gates. And it's especially tricky on the back half of it where Brad Perez's car was because the smaller teams are back there and the gate kind of goes in a different direction, so you can't really see it from there. This is the opposite for the trucks where the haulers were parallel to the gate instead of perpendicular. And they kind of had them meeting at the same end, so you could pretty much see the entire field. It was a little bit trickier this time, but I think they were trying something different. You got the 31 car behind the wall. So first car behind the wall is, again, Parker Retzlaff and the number 31. They get the car on jack stands, and they're trying to fix the transmission. They were originally calling for a different transmission, but first they're trying to fix it. So they get to work on the car. This is a crew member helping Parker out of the car because it's now on jack stands, so you can't just climb out of it. Now the floor is another foot down, so you got him coming out, and the crew's working on it. So they're getting it going. They think they got the repairs done, and they fire the engine, but the wheels aren't turning. And so they start working on it again. Then they fire the engine again. This time the wheels are kind of turning a little bit slower. They're like, okay, let's try to get the car back out and have, just try to get some more laps out there. And this is maybe about 20 laps, maybe 15 laps after he was in the garage area. And you still had maybe 30 laps to go. So you potentially could gain some spots, although nobody else is out at this point. So right as he is about to back up, you get the 92 car comes into the garage area. And Josh Williams has a problem. He has the right front is all cattywampus here. You can't really see it too much in this shot. Well, it's actually not too bad here. But once he makes a left-hand turn, because you got to turn around these haulers to get to the other side of the grid where the DGM haulers and all those were. But the right front here was so messed up that he started to make the turn, and they had to stop, and they had to back up. And the 31 had to wait a minute before they could back up. And so Retzlaff starts driving the car back out of the garage area, but the car just has no drive. Like it's basically just rolling down the hill because I guess even the paddock kind of slopes downhill before dropping down to get you back onto pit road. So the 31 just he keeps trying to refire it, keeps trying to get it going. And there's a video of it on my Twitter feed there you'll see where they just can't get it in gear and they got to push it back. And about the same time, the 92 car has finally tacked its way around the corner and gets over to its stall. So the next few pictures of the 92, crew starts working on the right front. They got the hood up. There's something wrong with the power steering, according to the team, which is probably why they eventually brought out some zip ties there, trying to attach something on the front of the engine. They get the suspension fixed on that, bolt the right front back on. But Josh Williams, you can see him in that shot, if I can get a better view of it here. He comes out of the hauler there in his uniform, and gets some other parts. According to Williams, he made kind of a mess in the hauler because he was kind of pushing things aside to kind of grab some. He was literally in a full-on sprint trying to get back into the hauler there and get the parts for the car. So he's getting the car back together. Meanwhile, I'm trying to hear in the background for the 31 to see if they're firing an engine and get back out there, get ready to post that It's Live graphic again, but not hearing anything. So the 92 is still getting done. Looks like they're getting pretty close to get finished. Williams gets back behind the wheel to get the car back off the jack stands, and then he's back off and away in this shot here. So Williams gets back on the track, so I'm going back over to the 31. So in the meantime, I'm staging the shot. I know that the team is still working hard. Look at all the parts are just scattered everywhere. This ended up being the header shot for the article here because I liked kind of the way it's set. I know it's got my shadow in there. It's a little distracting, but I like the composition on this one. You got the tires, the wheels, you got kind of the crew. I think you can see in the full version, you can see Parker kind of in the background there. But they were literally throwing everything. I mean, again, this is the same team that I saw at Texas in 2021, where it was hotter than hell's doorknob, and they missed the start of the race because they had some kind of problem. I think they had to replace the bell housing on the car, and this was where Kyle Weatherman's car also didn't start, or Bailey Curry's car didn't start, and they were literally nose to nose in a garage race to try to be the first car back out there. I'm so glad I got to be there for that moment, because that was real exciting to see these teams just work their tails off. I know they're both having the worst day of their season, but it was cool to see both these teams in slightly different positions in terms of their funding, trying to get back out there. And this ultimately was kind of what was happening here, because this 31 team was, again, they were just working on this thing. I kept listening to the officials, and they weren't declared out, and they weren't stopping working on the thing. So I'm framing this shot, and I'm standing here, and I told the people over at the group thing here, so you can't see it in this shot here, but there's basically, so you got the entrance to the garage area. It's maybe, I don't know, 30 yards to the entrance to this garage, and you got to make a hard left and a hard right, and then there's a narrow walkway that's basically the far extent of like the fan area, the lines to the shuttles, and that leads you past the media center here and back onto pit road. But the problem is there were so many fans, even for the Saturday race, that this was just all clogged up with fans and rental cars and carts and just everything. And through all of this, out of earshot, was Anthony Alfredo, and he's navigating through there. Now, there's security officials that are staged at each of these entrances. They're blowing whistles. They're supposed to be, that are blowing whistles that are supposed to be warning people when a car is coming through, so they can, of course, clear everybody out. Now, Alfredo apparently didn't have this happen, so he's coming up here. He's got a problem. He ultimately had a problem with the suspension. Unfortunately, took him out of the race, but didn't know that it was something that was going to end the race. So he's in a hurry to get back here. So he's pulling up, and I don't see him. And and I don't hear him. I got this shot. I'm looking at it on my phone. I'm like, okay, I'm starting to tweet this stuff. But you got to have your head on the swivel. If you're in the garage area, I mean, again, that's my responsibility. It's anybody else's. And luckily, I saw something big and blue coming my way, and I just took like 3 steps back really quick, and whoosh! I tweeted it this way because that was literally the expression. I literally couldn't. This is the quickest I could get a shot of the 78. That's how fast he was going by me. He was just rocketing past me, and this is him making that corner. See, it's leaned to the right. I don't know how much of that suspension problem or how much of it is him just speeding off here. He was going as fast as he could to get around those haulers and get back to the other side, because that's how far he had to go to his hauler to get this thing fixed. And he came back down there, and the crew starts looking under the hood. Unfortunately, he's out of the race there pretty soon after. But I swear, I heard Anthony talking to his crew and saying, like, complaining about the security guards. Like, look, I don't think this was just in my head, but I heard him say, he's like, man, I almost ran over Brock there. And I'm like, no. So I did talk to him there, and again, he was certainly disappointed from the run, and I hope he wasn't embarrassed, because, I mean, again, that's my responsibility. I got to make sure I'm keeping an eye on what's going on out there. And luckily, nothing happened. I got out of the way, and he got back over to the hauler as quick as he needed to, and certainly understandable. They're trying to get back out there. But he was very upset at mostly the security officials. They weren't blowing whistles. I didn't hear any whistles or anything there at all. I thought I heard more when Williams came in. It seemed to be more of a heads up there to see him come back. I didn't hear NASCAR's garage officials say the 92 was back there until he was pretty much past me. And then the 78, I think the report came even later. So I don't know what was going on at that same time. But yeah. Oh, it wasn't Jeffrey Earnhardt that offered the taco. It was actually Gabe Wood over at Alpha Prime, but the same team. Yeah, working with Jeffrey Earnhardt. But Jeffrey is a good guy. I appreciate him too, because he talked to me during the whole Joe Graf thing at Phoenix. He's really cool. I've talked with his PR person before. They're really cool. I got no problems there. Same thing with Gabe Wood there too. He's a big supporter of the site, and I appreciate him there. But yeah, that was from him there. So speaking of which, this is very relevant for the talking about this. So now to catch everybody up here, 31 car is already behind the wall. Parker Retzlaff. They're working on the transmission. They're taking everything apart. They got it off the jacks when Josh Williams was going behind the wall. They try to get it going. The car has no drive. Back it up, get it back on the jack stands. So now it's about halfway through the race. Josh Williams has already been in the garage and back out. He had a problem with the power steering, something with the right front as well. They were doing some work on that. He's back out of the garage. Anthony Alfredo gets back behind the wall in a hurry, gets held up. He's out of the race, and Alfredo's out of the car. So I'm talking with him. So I'm taking pictures of the 78 car here and posting them on there, including this next picture right here. So right after I take this picture of the 78 car, I have a person from Alfredo's team that's coming up there and asked me, and politely, I want to be clear, I don't want to be a jerk to anybody here, especially somebody just doing their job, but she very politely said, sir, don't take pictures of the car. And she asked me about that, and I said, it's like, and so I thought back to last year at Las Vegas, where we had, of course, this similar situation with Kyle Larson's car. Now in this case, in the Kyle Larson one, it was not asking, it was telling you not to take pictures of the car, which is very different. And of course, I was talking with a couple of my media contacts and saying, hey, you ever had this problem before? And I said, look, you get the pictures, you post them. You're there, you're doing your job. That's, if it's in public, you're not like, climbing in somebody's car or going rifling through somebody's lunch or something. That was the situation. But but I was taking pictures of the 78 car. It's like, look, you guys are paying me to do it. You guys are, whether it's my Patreon supporters or those of you sharing the content, I'll tell you what, look, I take my job very seriously on this. It's like, especially in this, I'm sure nobody saw any of these cars go to the garage area in the broadcast. I'm almost positive of that. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen the race. Maybe I'm wrong, but I didn't see any Fox cameras following any of these three cars here to the garage area. Not even Williams, who got a lot of that media attention after that deal earlier. Stealing setup secrets from the 78. No. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of that subterfuge going through there, but nobody's paying me to do that. So there's not that either. Not on my end. So I take this picture of the car. I'm in the process of tweeting it. And their PR person comes up to me and says, sir, don't take pictures of the car. And, I'm like, okay, she's being polite. I'm saying, look, look, this is what I do. I'm here with media. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not just a fan. I'm not goofing around here or anything. I represent this website that follows small teams, and I cover these organizations, and this is one of the teams we follow. And then she was asking who I was for, and I said, well, I'm here for lastcar.info. I'm the editor-in-chief. If you want to talk to the editor, here I am. And I gave her my card. And I kept taking pictures because, look, I know she's doing her job, but I'm doing my job. So I just want to let you guys know I'm learning. I'm gradually learning. I'm embarrassed it's taken me this long to find the right things to say. But again, I want to be very clear. She was very professional about it. She was not, she was not mean about it or anything. I got certainly nothing against BJ McLeod's team or anything like that. But I just thought it was funny because, look, I'm literally the only person here taking pictures of it. And maybe that was a suspicious thing. Maybe they're thinking okay, well, we have everybody here that's usually here. What the heck is this guy doing here? I almost take that really as a compliment because it's like, look, we're not counting on anybody being here to take pictures of the car or whatever. But that was the situation with that. But I did get that. And pretty much once that was done and I did the interview, I was done and I was pretty much out of there. Really at that point. Because, again, I'm still listening to see if anything's happening with Parker Retzlaff's car because I want to see, okay, is he going to get back in the race? And I'm like, okay, well, it's been a long time. We're starting to run out of laps. You can see how low the sun is in the sky in this shot here. The glare is coming down. By the way, the track looked gorgeous. In some of the shots I did see of the broadcast, where you can see the sun glimmering off turn 11 and the cracks in the pavement and stuff, that looked incredible. I've never seen the track that way before. I've been going here since 92. And I never saw that. I will say it was difficult to commute from the track, again, from the race being so late. It was 5 o'clock Pacific, and the race was over. I think the checkered flag was at 7:45. And even though I didn't write the article till Sunday, because I knew, wow, after we get back home, it's going to, we get something to eat, get back home, it's going to be like midnight, which it turned out to be. I won't go back into that discussion because I already talked about that, but that was challenging, but it made the track look gorgeous. But again, next year we're going to do a hotel for sure because, to kind of really enjoy this. and not have to slog all the way back to the headquarter here. But yeah, that was the situation there with the 78. So I had another one of those situations, just like I did with Hendrick Motorsports last year and Kyle Larson. And okay, yeah, it was Larson. It was a bigger deal, that Bubba Wallace accident. Everybody's still talking about it. And yeah, I had a perfect angle to get a perfect shot. Diego knows what I'm talking about too. He was right there with me when the Hendrick Motorsports person came up, and she was getting kind of a little. It didn't get physical, but it got a little rough. I mean, with that, they really didn't want anybody taking pictures of that car, which is absurd because it's a neon garage. You got the second floor, and everybody was taking shots up there. But yeah, that was kind of the situation. Go camping, yeah, that would probably be the same thing too. That would be great. Yeah, I haven't ruled that out. We just need to get more people on board. We're trying to get some of Last Pro's friends to come out. If we do that, that'll probably be the way we'll do it. But yeah, that'd be awesome because I love this track. I mean, pretty much that's about the only way I haven't experienced it yet. So like I'm saying, so we go back to the 78. They're out of the race, and they're about 13 now. They're well ahead, however, of the 31 because during all of this they've been trying to work on that transmission. Now they're trying to replace the transmission, which just takes forever. I've heard this with Jennifer Jo Cobb at Richmond. It'll take the entire distance of the race. It did in that case, and they basically just ended their night. I don't think they even got back out there, if I remember correctly. I think it was 2020 or 2019 that happened. But they're trying to do it. They're trying, and they were working their tails off just like they were in Texas with the heat. And in Texas, they got back out. It was the bell housing and not the full transmission, so which was still a massive thing that they had to do. But I didn't hear the engine fire up, so I'm walking back around. So just out of this shot, you got to kind of walk around these, and then you kind of literally do a turn 11 to go back over to that. Oh, this is kind of neat. When I was actually in this case, I took a shortcut between the haulers, and I saw this. They had a backup nose, which I think was okay. I'm trying to remember this Leaf Home paint scheme. Was this the one that they ran at Portland for Jordan Taylor? I think it was. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's where this nose came from. But it was just sitting there between the haulers. I'm sure they were keeping that on hand if Allmendinger had any problems out there. But yeah, they just kind of had that parked there, so I got a picture of that. So here's Parker Retzlaff's car. So now it's getting well late in the day, and the crew's working a lot slower. You got like a couple guys here. They're pretty much done. And you can tell that, they're just not going to get back out there. Pretty much at this point was the moment that they couldn't get back out on the track. If they went back out on the track, they would have finished the race under power. But even if they finished the race under power within regulation, they were maybe only going to be about 10 laps short of catching Alfredo. Otherwise, Alfredo would have been last place finisher if the 31 didn't break or if they didn't break as soon as they did. So I'm starting to work my way back over to the media center and kind of get a view from pit road there of the finish. The 45 car, this is Jeffrey Earnhardt's car after he wrecked. The nose is still stuffed in there. And now you got all this grass and everything on the rear of the car. Oh, I'm sorry, using this one. The grass on the rear of the car. So he was out of the race in the bottom 5. That's the Honeyman Portland car in the background there. Crews started loading up there in the late stages. Here's Sheldon Creed's car pushing their power wagon back up the hill. See, again, you get a little bit of the sense of this is the other side of that gate from the 2-car incident, the K&N race. You got the K&N haulers parked over here, and the entrance to the Xfinity garage is way back here. These are the Legends cars, or the Trans Am vintage cars parked here. And then behind them, like behind about 5 or 6 of those, that's the entrance to the entrance to the Xfinity garage. And then like the top teams have like the very first stalls there. So that's the difference. Let's see, listening to Brad on the scanner. Here's Josh Williams pulled out a second time. This is his 92 car going back to the garage again. This is like about 5 laps to go. I got video of the last lap there, the 53 car coming across the line. And so again, Brad Perez finishing in 29th. Congratulations to him. Finished the race under power. Got his post-race interview. That's on Twitter. I didn't get this guy's name. He was with Brad for a lot of this weekend. He took this gentleman here took a picture of both myself and Ben with Brad. He did a great job on that. So big appreciation to the photographers there. It's good to get a professional photographer to do it too, because I know it was going to look good there when it did. And we got that too. So big thanks to him as well. He was really helpful. So we got Brad's interview. That's again on the Twitter feed. These are just a couple of videos. This is right before I talked with the Sieg family. I talked about that a little bit earlier. 39 car getting loaded up. I believe this is Ryan here. I think so. I think this is Ryan and Kyle. Maybe it's not Kyle. I know Kyle was around this area, but I think his girlfriend was there too. This was kind of neat. I mentioned Parker Kligerman's parents being at the track. These are his parents right here. And I believe that's Chris Rice talking to him. Or I guess, maybe not Chris Rice. It would probably be somebody over at Big Machine. I thought it was. I don't remember who that was. But somebody was talking to him. And so, yeah, there's Parker's dad and Parker's mom. And his dad's really into real estate. And that was Parker's background. I didn't realize this. Mason Phillippe's PR guy was telling me this in there. And Parker saw a Formula One race when he was very young. It got him into the sport. Actually, Brad Perez had a very similar background. He even younger, Brad watched the race with his parents. You were browsing the TV. And Brad cried when they changed the channel. And so they knew to change the channel back, and Brad was happy again. And so that was kind of his thing. So both Brad Perez and Parker Kligerman having kind of a similar background and just seeing it on TV. That's why I hammer on the TV experience being so important. Because if you show it, great. Think about all the young fans out there that haven't even been to a race yet that are becoming a fan. Is that still happening now? Is that happening as often as it should be? That's what you got to look at. Look no further than these two. Now you got them both racing against each other in this series. I know I was asked about the 48 car earlier. I thought I had a shot there too. This is inspection. You see how much darker it's getting here. By the time we left the track, I think it's about 8:45, 9 o'clock when we left. Here's tech inspection. Here's Kyle Larson's car. Of course, Eric Almirola here in the middle. What was it? That was the third place runner. Was it Ty Gibbs? Ty Gibbs was up there. Let me get the Xfinity results. Allmendinger. Yeah, of course. Allmendinger in second, Larson in third, Ty Gibbs in fourth. Larson flubbing turn 11 in a race that it seemed like he had dead to rights. Very shocking, and couldn't get back around Almirola even with late race restarts, finishing 79 laps at the end of this one. We're getting the results here. As I said at the beginning of the show here, I haven't watched the broadcast yet, and I missed so much of the race because I was in the garage area. I basically, from like lap 20 to like maybe lap 71, I have no clue what on earth happened. So I'll watch the broadcast. I'm mostly curious about that because the Xfinity broadcast or Xfinity races are usually good. The Xfinity broadcasts are usually still just as bad as the Cup ones. But at the end of the day, with 7 laps to go, the radio transmission came through. 31 car out of the race transmission. Parker Retzlaff is your last place finisher. First last place finish for him. And I believe the first one for Jordan Anderson's Xfinity team. Diego was asking me about that earlier, and I think I agree with him on that. Not the first for Jordan Anderson Racing itself. I believe they had a few in trucks. Of course, that last place run at Talladega there with the terrible fire was one of them. So Anthony Alfredo in 37th, Jeffrey Earnhardt 36th, Josh Williams and Sage Karam, your bottom 5. I didn't see Karam go to the garage area. That happened after I left the garage area there, so I don't have anything on that. Connor Mosack was back in 32nd. I think that has something to do with the engine issue they seemed to have earlier. Talked about Perez back in the 29th spot there at the finish. Alex Labay qualified a great 11th in that old RCR car. I think that needs to get talked about a lot more. Had very limited sponsorship. I think it was Kyle Kelly's. Who was the sponsor? It was the low cost like cheap fast racing was the sponsorship, and it was like tied in with that SCCA team, and that was the only sponsor on the entire 29 car, and they qualified 11th and finished 25th. That was another really impressive run. Kudos to him there on getting that car into the show. Not just in the show, but great run there on top of it. But Almirola, congratulations to him. I know he's, of course, a Cup regular. And I guess he really excels at a race running almost at nighttime. Of course, he won that New Hampshire race that almost had to bump up against the curfew there a few years ago. But Almirola pulled off the win. Basically the first win for RSS Racing, even though, much like Bobby Daughter's first win with Cole Custer, a little different there with technical alliances, really with the same team with Stuart Haas. But Almirola still your winner. Still great for the Sieg family. I know they were excited. And I know they're still hungry to get a win with their own cars. Again, Ryan Sieg is very popular here at the Last Car headquarters. It was great being able to talk with him. I do have an interview for those of you tuning in later where I talked with the Sieg family after the end of the race. who interestingly weren't part of a lot of the victory lane celebrations. I mean, Rod Sieg didn't sound that interested in really doing it. I'm sure he'd feel different if one of his boys won between Kyle or Ryan. Kyle coming very close at Talladega, and Ryan has a whole list of ones that he's come close at winning at. Unfortunately, wasn't to be in this race here. Kyle not entered in the race, and Ryan back in the order there, finishing in the, where was he? 28th spot there in the number 39 car. I felt a little bad. Joe Graff was part of that group too when I talked with the Siegs. He was just standing there. He didn't really say anything. I know he didn't have a great run, but I was still happy to see him there. I really get the sense that Joe Graff is under a lot of pressure in his career, and it reminds me a little bit of Kenny Irwin and some of these other guys coming up that, they're trying to get into a situation where they could be competitive. Maybe the results aren't as where they feel they are, or they have to really question whether it's talent or it's equipment or anything. I always felt that way about Kenny Irwin, and he was in that situation with the Texaco Haviland car there for Robert Yates, and even when he went to, I feel like he really was like on the verge of trying to find a more comfortable spot with Team Sapco. Who knows what would have happened with Dodge? Sadly, we never got to find out. But Joe Graff reminds me of that a bit. I think that it's easy to be critical of so-called paid drivers or drivers that bring in a lot of sponsorship and so forth. I don't think that's entirely the case with him. He's still driving. I mean, he's driven for a number of different teams, admittedly. I mean, he did that with Childress and other programs. Now he's doing it with RSS Racing and still trying to piece things together. Is it a situation like that? But that's another one to look at too. One of these days we'll have to do more of an interview with Joe one of these days. But showing 31st in the final results here from the Xfinity Series race. Parker Kligerman with the 5th place finish. Great job by him after the Portland run out there. He made a great race with Cole Custer. I believe he was very conciliatory towards him there during the interview that I had with him. Mentioned how impressed he was running with him. Sheldon Creed was a driver I was really watching on this, especially after the deal they had in Portland between him and John Hunter Nemechek. I think I was certainly expecting kind of see what round 2 was, but we didn't really. I don't think we saw, at least from the part of the race I saw, I didn't see them really in the same place at the same time that often. John Hunter spun off turn 11 early. Sheldon Creed looked like he was really good in qualifying, but just ended up falling back a bit to the 11th spot. John Hunter showing back in 16th there in the race, but that'll be another thing to kind of look at there too. But congratulations to Almirola. So that was definitely more of our Saturday wrap up there at the same time. So let's see here. So after this, we got, this is like the teams loading up right after the race. Most of the haulers have left. This is in the Xfinity garage there. And this is my Yes, Bob, They Have Lights picture. So you kind of see that. And then, boom, right on to the next morning. And back out there again and seeing the track. I'm going to zip right by here. And we'll get into Sunday's action. So, again, things are a little bit lighter in the Sunday picture. Again, big thanks to everyone that came out to the turnout there. Big thanks to Jeff Gluck as well. Going into the weekend, I wanted to kind of wait to see when Jeff Gluck's pre-race thing was and just base it off of that. They were having theirs at 9 in the morning. I knew with the 2-hour drive that we were having from Last Car headquarters and the race traffic on top of it, and staying up pretty late and getting back about midnight after Saturday, that there was no way on earth we were going to get to the track any earlier than that. And ultimately we got there about 9:45. And so it was kind of literally scrambling down there for that. But a big thanks to Jeff Gluck, because he actually asked me, is it like, look, is our meet going to mess with your meet? I'm like, look, I'm only expecting like a few people. And he basically said, yeah, we're only expecting a few people too. So I was thinking, so basically I just had mine like an hour after his, and we had a good group out there. So big thanks to everyone that turned up out there. It was almost a redundancy, because there were a lot of people that came from that I ran into earlier in the week. But I knew I wanted to kind of have like a permanently set up one for anybody that was maybe having a hard time catching up to me through the weekend there. But I really can't overstate how many people I talked to there. Even Noah Gregson's PR person stopped me on pit road during Sunday's race there and said he enjoyed 500 days. And so I really got to tell a lot of people about the other videos I'm working on here, and excited to do that. So that was really cool. it was really good for the weekend there. Steve, yeah, no worries, Steve. We'll be back. We'll be doing plenty of these races here coming up there at the same time. So we'll do more races. We'll do more meetups here from there. But I ran into plenty of people, and again, I apologize, Steve, and everybody else that we couldn't meet up with. Garrett, if you're watching too, I know you were another one that I wanted to meet up with there too. I'm not sure if you were, unless you were. I mean, maybe you were at the other meetup there. I'm trying to make sure. I didn't get everybody from that. I don't think it was that. I'm trying to remember, but yeah. But we had a good group on hand there, so I do appreciate that. Let's see here. So we got the other pictures from here. So your last place qualifier on this too was Harrison Burton. I had to kind of hustle down pit road there when I did the meetup there. And again, big thanks to Ben Schneider. He was part of that too. I'm glad people got to meet Ben. Big thanks to Ben for holding serve for me too. I had to get a hold of him there to kind of just hang on there with the crowd until I came down there at the track. So I'm glad that worked out there. So big thanks to Ben again for his help this weekend. Yeah, I had a great time hanging out with Confirmation 07. If you're in the chat there, if you're listening, I know you're on your way back home this weekend with your friends. I appreciated meeting you and your friends out there. We had a great time. You're trying to figure out. He was asking me. It was like, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this. It's just like, where are places that you can like meet drivers and meet teams? And it's been a while since I was like a fan at the track, so I haven't really thought too much about where the best places are at Sears Point. I remembered in 2006, we came out here, Lastboro and myself, and we were at the Turn 11 gates. I remember seeing like Doug Richard and Mike Helton and all those guys come into the track, and you could catch them really easy and have them like sign autographs and stuff back then. I met Ron Fellows that way. Yeah, he signed my my program back that year. This was again years ago. I was back in well back before I was doing the media stuff. Yeah, so I kind of suggested that to him. But luckily he found another spot, because where Victory Lane used to be, which is right next to the grandstands there, they've now made that into a seating area. I forgot about that. Because basically if you stand there, you get people coming out there, and usually drivers don't stop by there because it's a little bit further away from the exit of the Cup Garage to pit road, but it is definitely the main thoroughfare that they go through. It's just usually so crowded you can't get up there. But Confirmation 07 and his friends actually had a great spot there. And we hung out there for a bit. It was great talking about the sport and, the track's history and different drivers and so forth. He had his 2311 hat, so he got signed by Freddie Kraft and all that. And that was pretty cool. So it's really cool to kind of see what was going on there. So we had a good conversation. Basically, once that was up, kind of got positioned back over at Turn 11, which is where I'm taking this picture here during the speed check here. Then Sunday's race was underway. Now, I'm very interested in kind of the discussions about this race in general, because I know, again, long green flag runs, and I'm sure there were some of the viewers probably thought it was a boring race, that Martin Truex dominated this race. And as many people have mentioned already about Truex, when he does win, he does tend to win in dominant fashion, and it's very hard to do anything to beat him at all. And that was certainly the case in this one. He was his fourth win at Sears Point. Congratulations to him on that. 10 years since his first one in 2013, which was also under cloudy skies. Looks a little lighter in this shot here. The weather was kind of breaking up a little bit by the start of the race there. But I thought it was a really exciting race. I thought it was exciting in the sense that, something could happen at any moment. And ultimately did. That was really kind of how this race kind of played out. And it was so exciting to see a race where they didn't have just a bunch of artificial cautions. There was one artificial caution with that tire that came off Zane Smith's car. Sears Point's pit road is very unique. It would be very hard for somebody to go out there and grab one of these wheels and bring it back. There is that blind spot again coming around the media center. I mentioned it a lot on the show, but I can't overstate how big of an issue that could be. Because, a car could come around that corner, and maybe you're in the same situation I was with Anthony Alfredo the other day. There's nobody blowing whistles for you when you're on pit road. So that's going to be kind of the different situation. But I was engrossed. I was standing there. Of course, when you're at the track, it's always going to be better. But in Turn 11, I watched most of the race from there. And I thought it was going to be settled pretty quick. I figured maybe on the initial start, you're going to get somebody knocked off the track, somebody's going to slide into the tires or anything. But it just didn't happen. And lap traffic ultimately became a factor. It took about 30 laps. But Grant Enfinger in the 42 car here and Andy Lally in the 15 car, if you remember, they were actually very much a factor in how Truex got the lead. And I should have taken a picture of it, but I saw it happening in front of me there. And then you had the 15 car and the 42, and threaded between them are Truex and Hamlin, and they're trying to kind of battle for the position there. Truex ultimately makes the pass. Hamlin doesn't lead again for the rest of the race. The caution kind of messes up his pit strategy a bit there, and Truex kind of goes from there. But I don't think it was an easy race at all for anybody. I think that it was even with the way that it played out. It's a very physical track. I mean, so many of these drivers just looked absolutely exhausted at the end of it. I was very fortunate that it was a much cooler day out there than normal. Even the people over at the souvenir haulers were remarking how it seemed so much cooler this past week too. But yeah, I think it was. I mean, it could have been done better for the broadcast, I'm sure. I mean, I was reminded of the 2018 Fontana race that Truex also dominated, and I was also at that one. That one I was just there as a fan. But that one I always thought was compelling because that was where Kevin Harvick came the closest to finishing in last place. He got damage crossing Kyle Larson's nose into the outside wall. The team had to really kind of fix the damage and try to clear the clock. And there was a real challenge there, and then trying to get the car to actually finish the race. And the fact that they did, I thought was a story that wasn't covered enough when we got back to actually watch the broadcast of that thing. Unfortunately, not nearly as much garage area intrigue this time. The attrition was extremely low. But then that created a new scenario because we hadn't had a driver that finished last at Sears Point completing more than 68 laps. That was held by Hideo Fukuyama in 2003 when he had a rear gear failure in that one. That was where Robbie Gordon won the race against Jeff Gordon. I did mention on the show last week, one of the most exciting races I ever saw at Sears Point was in 2012, where you had an 85-lap green flag run to start, and you had two cars that were just evenly matched try to outfox each other between Clint Boyer and Kurt Busch, and Busch back then driving for Phoenix Racing in a former Hendrick Motorsports car. This race here, to an extent, although it seemed like Truex really had the measure of Hamlin and certainly the field, Truex and Hamlin were trying to do very much the same thing. Certainly the first 33 laps. After that, Hamlin got kind of buried in traffic, it seemed like, and then that kind of shuffled things up a little bit. But, really kind of figuring, if you had a couple more cautions, if you had an incident that was going to cause a car to slide off the track, that could have changed the race's complexion completely. If you had even one more caution, it probably would have inverted, the field. I'm not saying green, white, checker. I think at that point at a road course there, the story of the race is pretty much written. But if it was like midway through the race and you had people wondering if we're going to get tires or we're going to count on there being another caution on the restart, and maybe do something at that point, that could have been a different situation there. But that wasn't the case here. But I thought it was compelling in a classic sense because, again, much like the 2012 race and, what played out there, you wanted to see the fastest car if it could actually pull off the win or if somebody could actually kind of catch up. Because so much could happen at a road course. You could have somebody crash in front of them. You could have somebody overdrive a corner like Kyle Larson did in the Saturday race, which was easily the most shocking moment from that event itself. It seemed like we were kind of setting up to have a potential situation there. But like the crew chief said, when you have Martin Truex Jr. at Sears Point, you expect to win. And I'm sure they came in there with that attitude, and that's certainly how that definitely played out there. I still liked it. I still think it was better to not have the stage cautions. And that may sound absurd because, of course, it didn't have, a whole lot of restarts. It didn't have maybe the closest racing there. But again, I think, how you portray that is really to blame for the broadcast. I did watch the start of the race on the broadcast, and it sounded like they were immediately bored of it when they went up the hill. They were already not talking about what was happening, and they were just kind of just bringing up oblique things about road course strategy and not describing, who's running where or who's working their way up or anything like that. I don't know why there wasn't as much of that there. I don't know if the whole broadcast was like that. But I had to basically just click it off at that point because the broadcast didn't seem very interesting at all, which is unfortunate. It used to be, I remember always going with the ESPN days, we'd tape it at home, and I'd always hope that the tape went through because so we could come home and actually see the way that they turned the race into a production and added some, exciting flair to it. But I don't know if it's just the fact that it's the last one for Fox of the year and they're basically just done or what, but I didn't seem to get the same sense from that there at the time there. But yeah, again, I've seen more exciting races at Sears Point. I've seen more competitive races for sure. But I like that we didn't have contrived action. I like that we actually had, people get stage points, but who cares? Just, move on. You don't have a situation where somebody has to decide between stage points or winning the race. It's, you have a race and you got to figure out, it's like, is a caution going to happen? And I just think it's been so long since we've had that kind of racing that we forgot what road course racing is. When you try to counter race backwards, when you try to have a different strategy. When you have a car that's that dominant, you have to try a different strategy. Maybe you are going to do multiple pit stops. Maybe you're going to count on there being more cautions. And maybe at the end of the race, that plays out and you kind of figure you're in a situation like what Joe Gibbs was last year where they all had to pit like at the end of the race and they weren't a factor in there. I don't see how that's a better solution. I think that, and really I think it speaks to the endurance ability of these drivers. This is not an easy track to run green flag 90% of the time. I'm sure whether you were Grant Enfinger at the back of the field or Truex leading it, I mean, it was just a really challenging race for anybody. And I'm all here for it. I mean, I said this about North Wilkesboro too. I want to see drivers like falling out of their cars or running out of tires or, a situation like that. People just hanging on. And I saw a bit of that. I saw when, Tyler Reddick came off turn 11 and he was in a four-wheel drift coming off there. Again, these cars don't drive necessarily perfectly. But I agree with Denny Hamlin's assessment that one thing that may have been an issue was the paint on the track and the fact that cars were able to get more of a drive off of turn 11 and turn 4, which are two of the key passing zones out there. And then that may have influenced the outcome of the race. But then again, I think that's something else that you can look at, for the future. I was surprised that the tire stacks were so easily movable. It seemed like they were the kind of thing that you want to avoid. I think that probably had a role in the damage that Josh Williams had in the Xfinity race. It seemed to have the hallmarks of it. That there was some kind of problem with the right front there. But that's kind of a different way to kind of look at, kind of what happened there. But I really enjoyed it. I mean, I wasn't tracking the strategy as closely. And again, I was trying to kind of figure out what was happening with, while still staying focused on what was happening on the track there at the same time, because the last place battle kept changing. And when the last place battle gets this long, where it's like 90% of the race, I have to say those are probably the most challenging ones to cover. It's actually ironically easier to cover if the first car falls out of the race and doesn't start the race or something like that. Those are probably the easiest ones. Is you got to make sure you're listening on the right channel on the radio and go back there. But this situation here, much like the All-Star race in Texas in 2021, when we were covering that, I was starting to think like, okay, man, I'm getting a little hungry or I'm getting a little tired to just stand on my feet here. When are we going to go to the garage area and find out somebody's out? But the great thing with that was it could have been anybody. And ultimately it was a real upset in that sense with Denny Hamlin. So we'll get into this part here now. So we're getting down to about like the last 20 laps of the race. I'm back up in the media center, and just kind of figuring that I'm probably going to write an Andy Lally article. It's always part of the process here. This is the other part that makes it challenging. When it takes this long to determine the last place finisher, I can't really start writing the article either. A lot of times somebody falls out early, I'll write it during the race and kind of have that in the background. And then really kind of focus more on the finish of the race and who's running well and so forth and kind of focus on those stories. This time I couldn't do that. Couldn't do that for either of these, really. It was cooler in the Xfinity race because I could go from one stall to the other. But in the Cup one, garage area was complete ghost town. Nobody went back there. And it's like, okay, so, 20 laps to go. Ben is keeping track of like the interval of the last couple of cars. I think he was doing a video at the time when it happened. And then suddenly you see all this smoke going into turn 1, and it's Denny Hamlin spinning out. You hear from, again, definitely check out his podcast if you haven't already. It's he does a good job breaking this down. Slapped the wall trying to set up a pass on William Byron. Ended up spinning out, hitting the inside wall. He made it back around on the track. I scrambled back out of the... This is always the most exciting part for the coverage I do. When somebody has when something like this happens just out of the blue, because I knew if I turned my back for one moment, if I was trying to grab some popcorn or something, I knew that was going to be the moment I was going to miss it. Right when I was starting to think that, Denny Hamlin had this wreck. So I get down the stairs, back around the corner, back to the entrance of pit road, and I managed to get a shot of the 11 car coming down at the kink before pit road, before I got rushed back by the security guy because he could get really close to that pit wall. He had to stand a little further back, but he was cool about it. We got the shot and then got out of the way. And then just looking down pit road, because he was, of course, the pole sitter, so he's all the way down at the very end of pit road. You can just barely see him. But, of course, you can see the crews working on the right rear, trying to get the toe link fixed, get back out there. I'm listening to his channel at this point. There's no word over the radio. They're just focused 100% on the work. Hamlin is told to fire the engine, go back out there. And then Denny says, well, it still feels like something's broke. And Hamlin's team was like, yeah, we're basically out of time anyway. We were trying to do what we could. And Hamlin thanks his team for the effort. It's like, good, it's a good effort trying to get me back out there. So he completes another lap. And in the process, now, luckily, since it's a road course, I got plenty of time to now scramble back into the Cup garage and get back over there. They had one of the team members was already standing by his garage stall, waiting to kind of wave him in. I'm sure he was anticipating he was going to come in through the uphill portion, but instead he entered by the fuel pumps, which is where he was originally standing, and I saw him come in. So that's where I got that film clip of him pulling into the garage area. So now by this point here, it's like, 17, 16 laps to go. And it's like, oh man, this is going to have a really crazy restart. Maybe we're going to have a whole lot of overtimes. I know we were talking about that during the race. And, that was kind of the situation with that. So that happens. And, I should just show the picture. I'm sorry. I haven't shown the pictures here. So, we'll pick that up here in just a moment. I'll kind of show some of your shots from the race here. Sundays was a little bit lighter. A lot of these I posted here already. I just posted earlier today the video of both Truex coming to the white flag and coming to the checkers. If you haven't seen those are already on the Twitter feed as well. But you kind of look through some of these shots. Again, some people could set up passes. Here's Almirola on Bubba Wallace here with Corey LaJoie behind him. And again, some people were kind of getting a little squirrely off there. Not as much as they used to. Here's, I kind of like this shot here. Where was it? Moving up a little bit more. Yeah, this one here. You can see the big cloud of dust off turn 10. Whenever a car gets off here, there's a hump coming right off here. You kind of drop down a little bit on the final approach to turn 11. I think it gives you a little bit too much speed, and then kind of you lock up the brakes going into it. But there's Andy Lally ahead of Grant Enfinger, the last two finishers, last two runners at the time, exactly. And it looked like he was going to be kind of set between the two of them. Then Zane Smith has a loose wheel. He loses a lap. And then Enfinger gets his lap back during pit stops, and then it's like going to be Lally and Smith. Lally and Smith lose another lap, and now it's like, okay, we're down to the last 19 laps, and that's when Hamlin has his wreck. A few more shots through here. You can kind of see some of those. There we go. Let's see here. Checking this out. Okay, here we go. Now we're getting down to the Hamlin picture, which is, okay, that's Hamlin on pit road. These pictures look older somehow from the shot. Okay, here we go. So there you go. There's Denny Hamlin in this shot here. This is the shot I got from the angle there. I'm glad I got that. I had to zoom way too close, but actually it kind of framed it better than I thought it would there. But yeah, so Hamlin comes down pit road. He comes back around. He's back into the garage. I posted that video on there. You can see... there's number 11 there. You can see how much the right rear is still towed in here. It's kind of just kicked in a little bit, a bit of the damage there. I got some shots of Denny getting out of the car and looking over the car a little bit there before he gets back into the medical cart and gets checked into the medical, almost said medical office, to the infield care center. So here's the infield care center. And now often when I cover one of these races and it's a big name that falls out, it's a big name that's going to be in last place, there's always TV media there. There's always TV media. I think I mentioned this before in the past. So this infield care center is also by turn 11. What you have to do is you have to go all the way to the far end of the turn 11 garage area, all the way to the garage area, to the far end of the cup garage, right where the gas pumps are. Make a hard right past the actual Raceway Cafe and all that, and then you go up here. They got the flag that marks it there, and this is the where they film everything. Of course, you got the backdrop here, so that shows up on camera, and you wait for the infield care center. Every time I go to one of these races, whether it was Clint Boyer finishing last in 2016, Bubba Wallace last year, although I guess he really wasn't an infield care, maybe not for the whole thing there, but AJ Allmendinger, they always have TV media there. They always have tons of other people here. This guy right here, this is Steven Stump from Front Stretch. He was the first one there. I got there. There was a Fox cameraman that was standing by, but no Fox reporter. Nobody. And I was like, well, somebody's going to be coming up here. This is kind of strange. I know we're getting down to the last few laps, and I'm sure everybody's trying to watch the finish. And this is admittedly probably the hardest part of what I do is if it comes down to it, and you kind of want to see what's happening. But, here there's no TV screens, and reception's not great, so you can't really see it. Excuse me. Long story, but we'll get through all this here too. So I'm standing there, and we're waiting for somebody else to show up, because what the rule is if TV shows up, they do the first interview, and that's their interview. That is not to print media. What I'm always told is that's not your interview. I've talked with NASCAR's media relations people and all that, and they facilitate that. They'll make sure that the TV gets their thing first and gets their footage on there. So this is Denny Hamlin. This is the pole sitter of the race, who got booed, by the way. When I was staying with Confirmation 07, he was getting booed a ton by the crowd. I think he got more boos than Bubba Wallace or the other drivers out there. Bubba, I think, actually got a fair amount of cheers. He tends to more from up here. But definitely the Chase Elliott contingent that was all ready to cheer for Elliott's return here was out in force there. And no doubt was noticing when Hamlin finishes last in this race. But we're the only two people there. And so Denny comes out, and, again, I let Steven go for it because, of course, he's the first one there. I'm not going to step on his toes. But, I got my recorder out there. I can't hear a dang thing because I figured I knew from Phoenix last year, it's like, okay, I'm going to make sure the batteries are good because I can't change the batteries on the fly. With Keith McGee and Armani Williams' interview at the Truck Series race last year, I couldn't get the quote because I was all there and set up to go. And I think Steven was there too, and he got that set up there. So I got the thing recording, and it's working, but all it's picking up is engine noise. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, I'm trying to get a little closer. I don't want to really get in Steven's shot because he's filming it too, but I'm getting there. I'm sure he's asking, what happened out there, and Denny's talking, but I can't hear either of them. And then, Steve asked another question, and then it's like, okay, I think we're pretty good. And I'm trying to think about, okay, what I don't want to, at this point I'm thinking, well, I don't really want to ask Denny the same thing again because I don't want to have him say it again. And I don't need to be the one to give him the soundbite. And so I asked him, I was like, okay, well, was it the toe link that put you out of the race? And I'm like, well, I use that as kind of a setup question to kind of think of something else. And, he kind of was pretty quick on that one, and I couldn't think of something else. And I'm like, What I should have asked him was, like, how was the race out there, or, like, up to that point, kind of encapsulate what had happened. Like how the race had gone. But he was just absolutely exhausted. I think even if I asked him that, he probably wouldn't have said that much. Because of course he's the first driver out of the race. So, he's the first real barometer we're going to have to how the race was going out there. So I should have asked him that. Instead, I just, I just said, sorry to see you out so early, better luck in 2 weeks. And that was about it. But again, kudos to Steven there for getting the quote on that. I think, I'm glad that worked out because and I'll tell you what, the good thing was when Denny would turn my direction and I had the camera there, I could hear him just clear as a bell. So there wasn't any issue with my audio. So I'm glad it was I didn't want this to just be a dang audio check, but I'm glad that stuff's working under the circumstances because, I've had to replace my audio recording equipment already a couple times because it just wasn't, you couldn't hear anything. And of course, nowadays you got to just get the quote. So I have video with sound that you probably can't hear, and I have audio of just me asking the one question. But thanks for Steven for including my question in there. He didn't have to do that, and I appreciate that. But he and I were talking on social media. We couldn't figure out why nobody else was there. Because usually, again, when it's a big name, I usually don't even go there because I figure somebody was there. Even at Fontana, when Allmendinger fell out, because there were a lot of people there that covered his quote. So I usually don't do that. Usually I'll follow like the car, or I'll see somebody from the team, or I'll try to get some shots of them loading the car, because that usually doesn't get shown. And that was the case. So just unusual, because again, nobody else was there. And so, I think, credit where credit's due on that there too. So I got the last couple of laps. There's the Hamlin clip there. So that's kind of my angle of it from there. And again, Hamlin was cool about it. Under the circumstance, he was clearly disappointed after such a strong run he had in the race there. But again, big thanks for him for speaking to both of us there at the end. So I just got a couple more pictures. I posted these earlier today. Kevin Harvick walking off the grid here after the race for the final time. I got some shots of the cars loading up there. I did get to speak to Grant Enfinger. Big thanks again to Grant, as well as his PR person there, for speaking to me after the race. That interview is also on the Twitter feed, so you kind of get that on there. These are a couple shots that Last Bro got from turn 11. I think some of these are mixed in from the Xfinity and Cup. He got some shots of, I think this is one of the K&N guys that climbed out of his car when the car stalled in turn 7. So you had that happen there at the same time. And I think that's about, hang on. Here we go. Where's that picture? There we go. There's a shot of Ben, Brad Perez, and myself after the Xfinity race. And that one came out good too. So big thanks. And again, thanks to Brad Perez's camera guy there for getting that shot there. He was really helpful with that. So that's about all I have on the picture side. So let me switch back over to the stream version here. And let me get that off here. Let me kind of close this. Remove that. Yeah, there we go. Alrighty. So really, we'll get the race results here and kind of touch on that. Big thanks for everybody for tuning in here too. I know it's a little bit unusual, a little bit of a different show here with kind of the, I don't mean to be the boring old person there going through the slides and, doing the slideshow here. But they really do help kind of describe what I'm kind of talking about from the weekend here. So Denny Hamlin, your last place finisher, second pole sitter to finish last in a Cup Series race this year, including Joey Logano back at Las Vegas. The 33 laps completed and the stage win are the first by a last place finisher since Bubba Wallace at Las Vegas last fall. The number 11 car, first last place run at Sears Point, I believe. The 92 laps completed blows away the 68 laps that were completed by Hideo Fukuyama in 2003. And still, no driver has finished last at Sears Point, finishing under power. Seems like we're kind of trending that direction towards that happening. Will that happen next season? I'm not sure. I think we're probably going to get a little bit more attrition than that. But that was the case this time around. So Andy Lally ended up being next to last in this. Again, great effort by him and Rick Ware Racing and getting that sponsorship together. Unfortunate the result doesn't really match the skill level there or anything, but it sounds like he had a good effort out there, just trying to run as best as he can. In a race like this, I think it's just all about survival. It's about I guess a good points day is any run you can get out there, but unfortunately, in situations like this, you got people in the bottom 5 that maybe in other circumstances wouldn't be down there. They just end up being the ones that make the most mistakes or just have the most problems. So with that, Zane Smith and the loose wheel thing drops him back to the 34th spot. Tyler Reddick shortcutting the course. I missed that. I was back over with during the Hamlin thing there when I saw that. That was Last Bro's pick to win the race. Started outside pole. Seemed like he was going to be one to watch, but unfortunately it didn't work out for him, finishing in 33rd. And Eric Jones running at the bottom 5 after his car stalled. The turn 7 crowd where Last Bro was watching from erupted in cheers there. When Jones kept rolling again there, so he kind of got a bit more attention. Seemed like there were a lot of Jones fans out there. Last Bro was wearing an Eric Jones shirt on Saturday and got a lot of compliments on it there too. So it seemed like, I don't know what it is particular to the team, or they just like the Petty car or the Legacy Motor Club car, but maybe that's just the way things direct out here. But look at the front of the field there. Martin Truex, your winner. Kyle Busch in second. Joey Logano third. Chris Buescher fourth. Chase Elliott makes his return to Cup competition after the suspension at Gateway. It finishes in fifth ahead of A.J. Allmendinger, finally with a good run there for Colleague this year. Colleague has just been completely off, even at the road courses this year. So I think the fact, as much as I'm not crazy about Cup guys in Xfinity, I'm sure no doubt that top five in the Xfinity race really helped Allmendinger's morale. And finishing top 10 again here in a Cup race, even where he's expected to, it's still good to see, especially in a race like this where one driver pretty much has a sole grasp for the lead there. Michael McDowell in seventh, I think it's pretty safe to say after last year that the surprising top fives that McDowell and Buescher had are not surprising anymore. Those two are ones you've got to watch in each of these. Certainly each Sears Point race and maybe other road course races. We've certainly had that be the case for McDowell for many years. Some of the good runs he's had at Road America and so forth. But now include Buescher on there, the old Mid-Ohio winner from a number of years ago. Still showing that he has that knack out there in this car. Kyle Larson, not nearly as dominant as he was in the Xfinity Series race. Finishes the 8th spot there. Did not lead a lap of this event after winning it in 2021. And did not continue his pole. His pole streak was quelled by Denny Hamlin taking it there in qualifying. I'm still not a fan of this group qualifying thing. I think single car qualifying, especially at the road courses, would really increase awareness of proper lines you take around the track, and it's much more entertaining, I think. So you get that thrill whenever somebody beats somebody else's time. We need to get back to that again. Certainly with this car, I think that would be a way to kind of maybe improve the perception of the car, because we're just, it's really hard to follow from a crowd standpoint. I had to really be in the media center to kind of track that. But Christopher Bell back in the 9th spot there behind Larson, and Ross Chastain rounds out the top 10 there for the Trackhouse effort. Kevin Harvick just outside the top 10. Other names here, William Byron back at 14th. He was my fantasy pick, and still finished ahead of Reddick there in 33rd at the finish of this one. Brad Keselowski, I saw a lot of him in the race there. Seemed like I'm glad to see he didn't struggle nearly as bad as he did at Gateway with the engine problems there. But it looked like he was kind of making some moves there, at least through turn 11. At least able to have some decent run there, but still back in the order in the 16th spot, just ahead of Bubba Wallace. Good to see Bubba Wallace get a good finish out here after the last place run last year. And we didn't really get to, of course, he fell out of the race so early last year. I feel like we haven't really got to see, what he could do at this track. Remember, he did come back from a flat tire here in 2021 in his first run here for 2311. So I think he's really starting to kind of learn these road courses. Kind of reminds me about both Sterling Marlin and Jimmy Spencer used to really hate road courses, and Sears Point in particular, but then eventually got to be good. I mean, again, Spencer got a top 5 in 99. Sterling Marlin nearly won the 2000 race and finished in second. Maybe we'll see something very similar for Bubba Wallace and maybe some of these other drivers. Ty Gibbs was one I was very excited about in qualifying. When he got qualified in the top 12, I think that he was showing some incredible speed out there. I was hoping that we'd see something like we saw at the Daytona Road Course in his first Xfinity win. He does end up still 18th, which isn't a terrible run, especially for a rookie, and especially where, again, one driver, especially his teammate, is so dominant. But a decent run out there for him. Ryan Preece, very quietly in the 13th spot there, to get to follow up the K&N run there. So good for him. Austin Cindric, I expected him to be in last place. He seemed to, there were a couple times he was literally coasting off of turn 11. Sounded like he was having some real problems kind of getting through the gears there. And, I wasn't sure if they're going to have a transmission failure or what. But still finished the race under power and gained some spots there in 25th. Grant Enfinger right behind him looked like he was going to be certainly competing for last place. Kind of reminded me of Tommy Regan's run a few years ago in the 55 here. But this time around finishes in 26th. So still able to get some points there for the Legacy Motor Club. And, finish with the car in one piece too, which is good. Poor Gregson's just had such a rough season this year. I'd love to see them have a turnaround. And I know he was looking forward to this race. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to see what he could have done in this Chevrolet. By the time they come around here next year, assuming he's still with that team, they're going to be running Toyotas. So we'll find out if that's going to help that program and maybe close the gap on guys like Truex at the front of the field here. Harrison Burton back in 27th after starting last. Almirola, the Xfinity winner, ends up back in 28th. Let's see, Josh Bilicki in 30th there for the Live Fast team. Ryan Blaney was spun out in a chain reaction. Allmendinger got into McDowell and created a situation there where Blaney spun out there at the end. And then pretty open and shut. So even a minor spin would drop you to the back of the field there. But again, maybe not the wildest or craziest race there, but still compelling. I think, again, any race is going to be compelling when you're there in person. But I was just interested in just seeing how far these drivers could go. It kind of made me think about making this race even longer. Could somebody, would this race have still played out the way it did if it were 125 laps or 150 laps? Get this thing a bit closer to where, Riverside was, where it was a real gauntlet. I mean, what was the time of this race here? It had to be only about, 2 hours, 40 minutes. It's got to be probably the fastest race from this year. I don't know if it's the fastest ever. What was the average speed? 81.9? Where does that even rank? I know Ernie Irvin at 92 had the record for a long time. Yeah, that was 90 point. Oh, no, that's a poll. 81.4. So, let's see. I'm sure it's been jumped up a lot more since then. 83.922 by Truex in 2019. And that's on the full course, so that was true. Yeah, 2019 went green for a lot of that one, too. But 82.882 by Harvick, by Truex again in 2018. Just kind of a different scenario there. But, again, I have to say, I thought, again, not the craziest one, but it isn't entirely about being just crazy racing. I think road course racing is much about endurance. It's about mechanical endurance. I don't know. I think it really speaks to how durable these next gen cars are. Maybe not in the most, maybe not in the best sense all the time. But when it comes to just, the car hanging in one piece, I mean, compared to the Xfinity cars where they had so many mechanical issues there, these Cup cars are able to just run this long. Maybe the answer is really testing the limits of these cars. I mean, if you had basically a next gen car just run the 24 hours of Le Mans and finish the race in one piece, and there's completely different rules and regulations that allow you to do whatever crazy Carroll Shelby like activities out there to keep those cars going for as long as they do. I think that maybe the paradigm should be longer races, because if you have short races, you really aren't testing the physical limits of these cars. But that's going to be a hard sell where you're trying to market sprint races and these novelty races, as Denny Hamlin describes them. That's going to be kind of a hard thing to juggle. So I guess what I'm saying is I kind of do miss having more of the mechanical issues that you would see from these Cup cars and these teams trying to figure them out and get back out there. I don't want teams to have to struggle with these. Certainly not a persistent issue. I mean, not a catastrophic failure like the brake issues we saw at Gateway. But again, it's these it would be good to see a race that's being a real test of this equipment. I'd like to know how much this equipment was really taxed from this particular race here, and maybe make some of these road course races, make these the longer races. Don't make an oval track race a real long race, but make these road course races longer. Used to be they would do like 500 miles around Riverside. It's something mind-boggling now. I mean, it's 350 kilometers for Sears Point. So I'd like to see like a real big road course test to it. And hopefully this 24 hours a day, 24 hours of Le Mans thing can really kind of maybe kind of start that conversation going again. Because that's always one aspect of Sears Point that's great. It's really a very rough and tumble kind of track, and that would be kind of something to kind of see at the same time. But that was basically it on that one. So finished the articles that day. Got the Xfinity and Cup Series articles done that afternoon. Last Bro and I grabbed some dinner, and we were just completely exhausted by the end of that, and kind of traded off driving back here and got back about midnight. And now here we are and wrapping that back up. So, but again, I really, a huge thank you to everybody that followed along this weekend, and followed the sponsorship there with with Brad Perez's team and just what we were able to just get done out there. I mean, it was really exciting. I know that and yeah, I mean, being able to do the last place action and also being able to share that with a lot of other people and yeah, just talk racing with people. I mean, it feels like it's been forever since Fontana. Even though it's just been a couple of months, and I've been counting the days down to this one for quite a while. So that was good to have, and I'm glad we had that in there. It's we're still still a fan at heart here for this. It's too bad they don't make programs for this race anymore. They just had program diecast for this one, but that was still pretty cool. But we have that going at the same time. So we'll do some trivia questions to kind of wrap up the show here tonight. It's a bit of a longer one here. I know it's been a long haul. We're up to about 2.5 hours here, but I do appreciate you guys tuning in. For those of you who like some trivia or stick around for that, we'll do some of that here. And again, if you have any questions from this weekend, definitely post them here in the chat. Jonathan, thank you for tuning in here. Welcome back from Sears Point. Absolutely. Thank you very much. We'll definitely jump into that. Oh goodness, Beast Metal, I got to get your super chat here too. Let me get into that here at the same time. In the meantime, let me go ahead and just do the question for the categories. We'll do the old Trivial Pursuit deal here. All right. So the categories are NASCAR. Excuse me. Pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. So again, the categories are NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. Yeah. Now, this year, I really felt like this year was even more of a full experience than last year. And I'm increasingly discovering that I feel like I'm covering Cup less and doing much more in the lower series, like on Xfinity and trucks. Like, definitely trucks dominated my coverage last year, and a lot of that was a G2G story. But even this year, with the Xfinity race, and yeah, okay, we had the sponsorship in both races, and yeah, that was a part of it, certainly. But, there were so many teams, and there were so many more I really wanted to talk to. It's too bad I didn't talk to, Sage Karam or those guys. I didn't really, there was almost too much to cover there on that side. Whereas in Cup, there were, a couple of stories I was interested in, and there were a couple more things I kind of had in the back of my mind. But really more than that, it was just kind of, what happened in last place. So, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if that's going to be the trend for the coverage going forward, that it's going to be more heavy on Xfinity and trucks, or if it's just kind of always been that way. Certainly the lack of entry list changes, I think, has affected that significantly. So you have a lot more going on in terms of different drivers getting brought in, different teams being brought in, or teams bringing extra cars, which was even the case this week. It seems like it's been forever since we've really seen that. So I really enjoyed that. I'm all about that. So, yeah, we'll see if that's going to be kind of the situation. Let's see here. So again, yeah, your categories on here: NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. Endurance match on the show here tonight too. But I do appreciate it. Alrighty. So yeah, let me get back over to, I'll get Beast of Metal super chat here first of all. Thank you again for the super chat. Either avoid the broadcast at all costs or watch it with a bottle of diazepam to calm your racing heart. It was epitomized by Mike Joy saying Stewart passed Truex for his final win in 2016. Oh boy. Well, I did, and I saw a comment on this too, where he said what Boyer said when Hamlin spun. I did hear that because I was in the media center when that happened. And he was like, storylines, but storylines. It's like, if you could encapsulate a problem with NASCAR on Fox in a sound clip, that would be it right there. It should be about storylines. It should be about things that happen from one race to the next, things that happen from one year at this track to the next, things that, you should, why you're watching it, not just a reaction video to what's happening. Not just again, a reaction video with the vaguest reaction, oh, here's a bunch of cars. How about this is a race for 19th and 20th between Justin Haley and AJ Allmendinger, for example. Something of that matter. Or it's oh, he's sponsored by this company, which is da-da-da-da. I get it's not a commercial, but that's being disingenuous. You're showing the car. If they had a problem with showing these sponsors, they would just blur them out. I hope they don't do that because there's enough of that in media already. So you've already shown the sponsor. Say something about it. How about that? But, these are, they paid enough to be on the car. You know, and I say this as somebody who puts stickers, you know, that's had some stickers on cars here now. Like, you know, come on. I'd like to believe I'd love to see if the 53 got any screen time in the broadcast there. I just taped qualifying in the race there, but we'll find out. But yeah, it sounds like there wasn't a very good broadcast, but what you're saying there, Beast of Metal, and that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate because this is a race I think a lot of media looks forward to. I know it's a very challenging event. I've heard some, even veteran reporters say that it's hard to kind of juggle things when stuff that's going on because, you could be at one part of the track and completely miss what's happening elsewhere. But you could say that probably of some ovals. Certainly Indianapolis comes to mind, where it's literally impossible to see the whole track from there. Even at Sears Point, if you get up onto turn 2, that's where any place where the spotters are, that's going to be a pretty near complete view of the track. That's where Lastbro and I always used to sit, was turn 2. We kind of transitioned to turn 7 now since then, but that's always kind of a different way to look at it. But I think that would be kind of another one to kind of look at the same time. But I'm with you, Beast of Metal. It might be a Mystery Science Theater kind of experience. I'm still going to try to watch it. I'm going to try to watch Xfinity first. Probably after the show here tonight, I might actually watch some of that and see what that looks like there, and we'll find out. But yeah, I got the qualifying session and all that on there, but we'll find out. Fox never said a word about Enfinger's first Cup start, says Chrome Diesel. That's disappointing. I thought that would be a great story. And again, I'm so glad I got to ask the thing about Seneca Motorsports, because once he got the tab, I remember doing that starting grid. I actually consulted the starting grid for that 2011 Ford 400 at Homestead before doing my entry list article, because I remembered, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot it was TRG cars that were used in that team. And that TRG was a team that Andy Lally drove for in 2011. And Andy Lally at Sears Point actually drove a DEI backup car that was a backup car for Martin Truex Jr. Look it up. So there's that situation there too, how kind of all that plays out. So, that was or maybe I'm getting confused. Maybe it was 2010. That would screw it all up if it was 2010. Maybe it was. I should look it up. I should say it's so easy. I know there was one Sears Point race where they ran a backup 71 car, but now I'm starting to think maybe it was 29 or 2010. But damn, that would be really good. I'm glad I didn't post that in the article. But I think I did have the connection with Lally and Enfinger, but it was exciting on that one too. Where was that? Now it's gonna drive me crazy. I'm gonna try to find that because I bet it was probably 2009. It was GE sponsored Martin Truex in the number 1 car. So it still would have had to been, Earnhardt Ganassi. And it wouldn't have, because it wouldn't have been 2010, because 2010 he was with Michael 2010 he was with Michael Waltrip, Truex was. And 2011 he was with Michael Waltrip. So it would have to be 2009. Okay, let me pull up the paint schemes. Damn. That would have been great if it were. But that would have been, I guess it's so eager. I find I do that a lot when I'm doing my writing. I'm always so eager for something that fits together, and I have to double check. It's like, well, wait a minute. That sounds like it fits together, but maybe that's not actually what happened. Maybe that was a different year. Maybe that was a different one. And it's like, okay, make sure the chain actually connects. But I guess that was a Mandela effect on my part. Let me see if I can find the car, because I think that would be a good one to kind of tie in here. We'll get to trivia here in just a sec. But this is going to bug me if I don't pull it up. I'm pretty sure it was 2009, now that I'm thinking about it. 71. Do they have it here? I'm looking up J-Ski here. Dude. Yep, there it is. Here we go. Let me pull up our Twitter screen one here. And we'll close off that. There it is. This car right here. The one in the middle of your screen. Okay, the hand thing's not working. See that car there? Yeah, that was the one. It was an Earnhardt Ganassi car. It was the Racers group, but I don't think it was Andy Lally. I don't think it was Andy. Was it Andy Lally? It was a backup car. It was still David Gilliland. No, it was David Gilliland. Okay. So it was Gilliland for that. And because it had the different splitter on it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, but that was, okay, here we go. You can see my mouse on it. This car is the one we're talking about, this light blue one here. Because it was a GE paint scheme, and they put the Adobe Road Winery Hills on it because they screwed up the primary, and they had that one. Again, great paint scheme. I love that Adobe Road Wineries car. There's a couple shots of it there. Wrecked in practice and had to go to a backup. A Matthias Warch picture. There we go. Yep, that was the one. So that's the one I was thinking of. So there was that connection. So it was in 2009, you had a connection with TRG, but it wasn't with Andy Lally. Andy Lally wasn't in it until 2011. But in 2011, they ran Fords, which is kind of a different deal. But yeah, the Seneca Motorsports thing, I really wanted to follow up on that, and I'm glad Enfinger talked more about it because I think that was interesting. But that's a different one to kind of look at. Let me see. Yeah, Fox never said anything about that. But again, yeah, thank you, Beast of Metal, there for the broadcast encapsulation. Again, it might be watch more highlights of it there, but I usually like to watch the full race because usually it's not too long, and as long as you can skip through the commercials or whatever. And I know they have the live streams or the streamed versions of them on YouTube. And that's kind of nice. But that used to be our tradition. We'd always like take an extra day after the race and watch the broadcast of it. I think we're going to bring that back next year when we do stay at a hotel. And what we'll do is we'll probably stay an extra night after the race, so it's not a late evening coming back, and then watch the broadcast coming home. That'd be kind of fun. Should have done that this year. Yeah, it's a tongue twister on the name. Credit on that. Jordan Taylor. Comically bad on the broadcast. Okay, yeah. Yeah, Boyer's reaction to Hamlin's being Bulgogi 77. Yeah. No, I did hear that. That was pretty bad. Tracks, pits, let's see. How did the lack of stage breaks feel being at the track? I liked it. It just felt like a really long green flag run. And it feels like it's so long since we've had that. You know, and the problem is you could have stage breaks break that up, but that's not going to guarantee it's going to be a more competitive race. I mean, 2021 was a little bit crazy. You had like some pile-ups and stack-ups on the restarts. But, yeah, that would be a different one. Those were TRG cars, yeah. No, it was TRG cars for the the Seneca effort. But yeah, that was a different one. Team had high hopes, didn't go anywhere, Jonathan. Yeah, see, there you go. That would be interesting to find out. Yeah, we may have more information on that coming up, so stay tuned on that. All right. I see a couple more for pits. Yeah, no, again, I think it's more exciting. I think it was better because, again, you were waiting for something to happen. It's much more like a race is usually. See, a race isn't like, you shouldn't be waiting until the stage happens. Like, oh, thank goodness that's over. That should never be the feeling. That's the problem with the stage cautions. And you'll have a race, maybe if it goes caution-free, that used to be something people were, like, excited about. It's like, wow, they're going to be caution-free. You know, this is it. Like, they got to catch this guy or they're running out of time. You know, that's where it gets really interesting. You know, and when Truex still had a big lead and they're not catching him and there's no indication there's going to be a caution, you know, and you know with caution rules how easily that can turn things on their head like it did at COTA. I think it's way better. I think it's just been so long since we've had that, we don't know what it looks like anymore. So when we see it, it's like, oh, I don't like this. It's like, no, this is good. This is good. It's maybe not great. Great finishes still happen. And they can still happen even in a race that maybe isn't as competitive, but yeah. And I think, and somebody was saying this about Truex, that, you know, like when he wins, he dominates. I believe Dorm Bumper Clear was talking about that. And I agree. And you know what? And I'll take it a step further. NASCAR has always had a driver that's done that. They really have. They've always had at least one guy that's capable of that. That maybe they don't win all the time, but when they do win, I mean, when they're up there and they have a car that's capable of winning, watch out because nobody else is going to have a prayer. Right now, that guy is absolutely Truex. Maybe a little while ago, it was Jimmy Johnson. A little bit further before that, it may have been Jeff Gordon for a little while. Before that, it was Mark Martin. And before that, it was Davey Allison. And that's about as far back as I can go in my own memory. Those drivers in their eras, like early 90s, Davey Allison, mid 90s, like Mark Martin, late 90s, early 2000s, Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson for basically like 2004, 2005 to almost his retirement when he kind of fell off. And then Truex from like 2016, like his Toyota era to now. Those are probably the drivers that are capable of that. And we've always had them. I remember not liking Davey Allison as a kid because it seemed like when he won, the camera would just show him the whole time, or they would just talk about him constantly. But of course, he was a race winner, so of course they're going to talk about him. And he would do it a lot, and he would do it at multiple different tracks, and particularly specific tracks they were really good at. You can probably say Dale Jarrett too. I think in the 90s you had probably a number of drivers that were capable of that on any given on certain Sundays. It wouldn't be any week. Like, Dale Jarrett maybe would be like that. Bobby Labonte, Jeff Burton, Mark Martin. But Mark Martin in particular. Mark Martin, when he was on, he was just on. And again, and I think a similarity between those drivers is their physical strength and their endurance and how they were able to kind of like tackle those races. So if it got really challenging, they were just really good. Of course, Jimmy Johnson fits that. Jeff Gordon fits that. Truex fits that. Certainly. So I think it's just every generation or so, probably less than that, maybe every 10 years, we get kind of that. So I think that's the case. We'll do pits. I think pits have come up a lot here. I saw a couple of votes for that. We'll do that. Road America is a cool experience. Yeah, I'd like to see that too. Yeah, any one of the Roush guys in the early 2000s. Yeah, for sure. Road America at 4th of July looked beautiful. I know our William Saki was out there for that event, and that looked great. That looked just beautiful. I mean, the setup there, perfect picnic weather for 4th of July weekend there. And it's Road America. I mean, it's in the name. I mean, it just sounds like a great idea. But again, I think that's another track that was probably sidelined by crappy broadcasting. I'm having a hard time finding nicer words for it the more we talk about it. It shouldn't be like, you shouldn't have people waiting for a caution, waiting for something to happen. You should be excited. Racing is an exciting thing. And you could have a race that's maybe less exciting than others, but it's still racing. You're listening to a guy that sat through the 2000 Daytona 500. I remember seeing that 99 Michigan race that Dale Jarrett dominated the year before, and how boring that was. And only one car fell out of it. But heck, I mean, I watch it now and I'm like, man, this is actually a pretty good race. So you never know. Alrighty, first question. What tire company is based in Lakeville, Indiana? What tire company is based in Lakeville, Indiana? Based. All right, here we go. What tire company is based in Lakeville, Indiana? Kind of a destination race, yeah. Let's see here. Just kind of browsing through the comments here again. Yeah. I mean, again, I think if you have a bad broadcast and a race that's not having a lot going on, it's definitely going to make the race look worse. Again, it's the same scale. It doesn't fail on this. A bad broadcast is going to make the race worse. Undoubtedly. A neutral broadcast is not going to distract from it at all. It's going to be just what the race is. So if they had like a broadcast that was kind of okay, it would have probably still not been the most exciting broadcast, but it wouldn't have made it a worse experience. But a great broadcast can elevate it. And even if you have a boring race or a race that's not that competitive, it could be something entertaining. And that's what they need to get back to. I mean, if there's generations of Formula One announcers that could do that, then certainly we can have that in NASCAR. Bring Lee Diffie back. Bring Alan Bestwick back. We got people that are capable of doing it that have done it. So I don't know. Or me. Anyway, we'll find out. What tire company is based in Lakeville, Indiana? NBC's IndyCar broadcast can make a meh race enthralling. Exactly. Yeah. I almost didn't change the channel back to Gateway when they did the Detroit race. I was thoroughly entertained. And it didn't have to be a crash every moment. I was watching Will Power do his whole Days of Thunder thing, like faking high and then going low and making the move. That was thrilling. I loved it. And I loved seeing Will Power being that good this much longer in his career. It feels like it's still 2012 again. It's crazy. What tire company is based in Lakeville, Indiana? The answer is, of course, Hoosier. A lot of you got that. Hoosier is indeed the correct answer. Austin Foster, looks like you were the first one on that. Jimmy Mack and Boyer kept talking over each other. Xfinity was good with Harvick and Cindric. Yes, Harvick's going to be good in the booth. I'm very excited for that. I heard somebody mention earlier today that Harvick and McMurray should be in the booth with Mike Joy. I think that's a very good idea. I like McMurray. McMurray reminds me a lot of Derek Cope as being a more very professional, very, corporate-minded type. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. I think I had this conversation at the track this weekend. But again, just kind of more measured in that. And what's nice about him too is I like that he has a couple jabs he kind of pokes Boyer with. He's a funnier guy than he lets on. I don't think McMurray gets enough credit for that. He's a guy I used to pull for too, so I'm a little biased in that. But I think McMurray and Boyer would be, not Boyer. McMurray and Harvick would be very good, and Mike Joy in that sense too, and just to kind of have the older hand in that aspect too. I think the drivers only broadcast has certainly shown Harvick to be that good. Well, again, you get California driver, you get the kind of the Columbia School of Broadcasting voice. I think it seems like most of these broadcasters either get from California or the Northeast or something like that, and that kind of, certainly helps out. Derek Cope in the booth. That would be cool too. I think I'd like that too. Hey, Kyle, thanks for tuning in, man. Good to see you too. What was the last year, we're still doing trivia here, what was the last year bias ply tires were used in a NASCAR Winston Cup race? I'll read that again. What was the last year that bias ply tires were used in a NASCAR Winston Cup race? We are drinking Code Red here. I saw the message earlier on this. We don't have any sponsors yet, but who knows? Maybe we land that one of these days. I've never had one of those offers for those YouTube sponsors. I've probably mentioned this before. But if I had one, like I know everybody signals like when they have ads, I would probably have a thing where I would just go full into it. Like if they had one of these ad reads, I would just narrate the heck out of it. In fact, if somebody has like a link to one, let's do this. This will be funny. This will be pointless. Like, does anybody like have like an ad read, like that they'd like me to read? Like, just drop one in. Like, if you find one online and they have like the script, like just drop it in the chat. I mean, nothing profane or anything like that. Like, let's not do that. Let's be adults here. We got young people in this chat, but just even if it's like a really boring one, just drop it in the chat and we'll give it a try and we'll just do that. It's gonna give some free publicity for somebody, but maybe I'll change the name and kind of mess it up. So. We'll have that. Maybe we'll just do that to kind of wrap the show up. Because I'd like to practice with one of those. Just because I sometimes practice in the car. When I was listening to Denny Hamlin read off some of these here, and it's like he was reading off ones for like ZipRecruiter or something like that. It's like, well, I mean, you could do it like that. Or, you could do it like a new breakfast cereal. I don't know. Next question. What was the last year bias ply tires were used in a NASCAR Winston Cup race? You got several guesses for this. 89, 88, 92, 75, 88. Tough call. Loved Blaney, Logano, and Cindric in the booth. Blaney's not bad. Cindric's good. Cindric, talk about a guy with a sense of humor. I like Cindric. Not sold on Logano. Logano laughs too much. You gotta. They should have fun, but keep the giggling to a minimum. I'm sorry. He and Adam Alexander. It just gets to be too much. It gets to be too much. If you put probably the worst booth you could do with the current parts that they have would be like Adam Alexander, Joey Logano, and Clint Boyer. I think it would be practically unlistenable. It's just like that. Now, maybe if Logano was a different group, maybe it would play out different. I mean, again, of the three, I think Logano is the best. But boy, that's a tough pill to swallow. I can't do it. Can't do it, man. I'm sorry. Cat skid steer loader. There we go. That would be a good one. Let me read the question again here. What was the last year bias ply tires were used in a NASCAR Winston Cup race? The answer is 1992 is the correct answer. 92. I thought it was 91 because 91, as I described in the J.D. McDuffie book, They used bias ply tires at the road courses, and they just phased in. They did bias ply for Sears Point, and they did radials for Watkins Glen, and then did radials for the first time at Sears Point in 92. So that would be it. Oh, I didn't even think about writing a promo. That's a good idea, Jonathan. Yeah, that's an option too. I was thinking if it was like really boring, so I could do that one there. But yeah, we'll jump to yours here in just a moment. 92 is the correct answer. Yep, Michael, you got that one. Right on. You nailed it. I guess they must have run it at like Wilkesboro or something that year. Maybe I don't know what the last track was that phased them in. I thought they had something different in the late 80s, but I guess that was with the Hoosier Tire War that probably changed that a little bit. Okay, here. Let me read Jonathan's thing here really quick. So we'll do that. Okay. Get started here. Here we go. Today's stream is sponsored by Logano Burger. Need a Dr. Pepper chocolate shake or a jalapeno burger with cheese and tartar sauce? You got it. Leave a 5-star review or none at all. Logano Burger. So like that. That's easy. Hey, Ben. Oh, you're over at SFO. Right on, man. Hey, thanks again for your hard work this weekend. If you just checked out the stream here, definitely give it a listen later on, man. Definitely give you a shout out on the show. Here's Ben here in the chat here, folks. So we're doing we're just in time for the trivia portion here. We're also reading off ad reads here at the same time, just for S&G. So we'll do some more questions here at the end. See, I need something boring. I need something like where like it's like there's something very dry, like a core competence. You know, you need to exploit your core competencies, like something like that. But yeah, I like that though, Jonathan. That's good. All right, here we go. Next, we'll do a couple more questions here. What owner helped design the first efficient stock car shock absorber? What owner helped design the first efficient stock car shock absorber? Alrighty. What owner helped design the first efficient stock car shock absorber is the next question. I guess I could do an ad for these stickers. I mean, I could do something like that. But yeah, 4.5 by 4.5 inches square for the camera 2. This one here. And then you got the car sticker here. These still available on the Last Car eBay store. ebay.com/lastcaronbrock, I believe, is the account there for that. The link is also available on lastcar.info. I'm so glad that NASCAR didn't have any problems with this sticker showing him past the 17 car. I just had a lot of fun with that. I was like, okay, we got to have a little Easter egg on this one. Even for a smaller ad space here, it was cool to do that. I remember that old ESPN, like this is Sports Center video, or what was it? Scott Van Pelt was getting a sticker on Rusty Wallace's car, and then he gave him like $50. It was basically like a postage stamp with like his face on it. But that was great. It's like, hey, it was still on there. It's like, hey, I think that's cool. Flight to Boston takes off in a little more than 2 hours. Oh, goodness. Well, hey, man, hang in there for sure. Hope you have a safe travels, and looking forward to the next time you come out here, Ben. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, good job this weekend. So, yeah, we had, I'm glad we got the picture there with Brad, too. Like I say, I meant to get a picture with you last year. I'm glad that worked out. So, no, it was a lot of fun this weekend. Had fun, traveling the garage area and meeting everybody there. There's no shortage of storylines this weekend. Picked a good couple of years to come out, for sure. Kurt Busch. Thank you, Ben. Yeah, that was Kurt. Yeah, I thought it was a Miller car, but yeah, I guess it was a more recent year. So, yeah. There you go. Did we even do this one? What owner helped design the first efficient stock car shock absorber? I don't think we did the answer here. What owner helped design the first efficient stock car shock absorber? We got Lee Petty, Junior Johnson, Ralph Moody. It says what owner. And again, we're talking late 90s. So yeah, it wouldn't be somebody currently. What owner helped design the first efficient stock car shock absorber? The answer is Ralph Moody. Maserati 9 got it. Ralph Moody. Holman Moody, a very close Clint Will, specifically Ralph Moody. I don't know if it was when he was part of the Holman Moody effort. Probably, but maybe that would be it too. You guys had a good time at lunch all 3 days. There you go, right on. Yeah, that was a fun group there we had over on Saturday. We had a good discussion. Let's see. So we got that. Let's see here. Let's see. Product sample. Have a sample product. Ad read. 24 best ad copy examples that convert like crazy. Okay. Oh, this is just like using memes. Okay, well, you could do that, but once you gotta actually have a good copy. Let's take a look at. Oh, this is the article. See, I can't separate the article from the read. Where's the sample read? How about this? This copy hackers. What is it? Okay, nope. No free rides here. Here we go. Your job is not to write copy. Your job is to know your visitors, customers, and prospects so well that you understand the situation they're in right now, where they'd like to be, and exactly how your solution can and will get them to their ideal self. That's not very good. That's not very good. Give me a good one. Let me see if I can get a good one here. I'm just kind of Googling someone's here. Types of ads. Oh, no, this is just a list. Don't give me lists. Creative ad copy examples from brands. There's all these listicle articles here I'm finding. Successful ads usually have a thing in common. Oh, my goodness. Just have the thing. Just nothing. Just piles of nothing. Best ad copy examples. Write copy that sells with AI. Yeah, no, we're not doing that. I don't know. I guess that's probably the problem. When I'm putting examples, it's going to be like, oh, okay, we're going to give you... We could do it AI, but I mean, AI is going to... It doesn't sound right to the ear. The ear can detect a different one. Resurrecting 90s card. There you go. Ambien. Side effects include nausea, vomiting, resurrecting 90s cart, stomach pain, gout, and blindness. There you go, Jonathan. I like it. There's some hilarious ones from Mad TV. Ooh, that would be fun, too. You just put ad copy. Again, something boring ones are funnier. Like, I think if it's like, yeah. The boring content makes visitors react to your offer. It's going to have to be for a company. Let me just do one for one of these things. What was the Arctic Coolers one that Denny did? Where is that? Okay, here we go. Where is it? Oh, I don't want just a message board about it. Where's a good one? Samples here. How to start a drinkware brand. I don't want to do that. I'm using a Boolean search here. It should be able to find me the thing. They probably just like, oh, no, we can't just send you this. It's like, no. We're not just going to post this. These are bad. These are just, see, again, like, I think I made a discussion about this a while back. Like, people that are successful at something or people that are effective at something, they don't know why they're successful. What they're telling you is what they think is that, they can be learned from it. And even if they can express it, some things are a learned skill and some things just aren't. And that's kind of the problem. So when they just send they give you these buzzwords here to make decent ad copy, it's like, Well, I mean, just kind of try to write one, and if it doesn't sound right, then just try to figure out what's wrong with it. I mean, it's like, I don't know. The best display ads, rhyming ad copy. Oh, yeah, that's true. All these new age stuff here. I don't know. Just look up the transcript of Happy Fun Ball. Oh, okay. That sounds better. We'll see how far we get through that. Oh, yeah. I think I've seen this one before. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Let's see. February 16th, 1991. Did they actually have the fan site? Oh, transcript. There we go. That would make sense. I'm not sure. Let's see. Well, I don't remember the twist on this one, but I mean, that's probably not a good place to start. Found a DM. Okay, hang on. I'll check that too, Kyle, but hang on here. Let's see. Yeah, maybe. Ooh. Ooh, I like that. Yes, I do like that. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah. Yeah, hello, new wallpaper. Okay. Yeah. Kyle, is it okay if I show this, man? Gotta show this. Wouldn't let me post in YouTube chat. Wouldn't let you post. Oh, okay. Doesn't do that. Okay, maybe it doesn't let you do links. It's okay. Don't worry about that. Let's see here. Can I show it? Can I show it? Can I show it? Boop. Boom. Look at that. Look at that shot. Look at that. Look at that beautiful bean footage. There you go. And the NASCAR logo right there in the middle. That is gorgeous. Great shot. Great shot. Thank you for sending that, Kyle. Thank you for sending that. Make sure. Perez. Shamboozled. Fantastic. Yeah, thank you. All right. Yeah, no, gorgeous. Thank you for sending that. Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah. Happy Fun Ball. Here we go. Let's see. It's happy. It's fun. It's Happy Fun Ball. Yes, it's Happy Fun Ball, the toy sensation that's sweeping the nation. Only $14.95 at participating stores. Get one today. Warning, pregnant women, the elderly, and the children under 10 should be... Hang on. Warning, pregnant women, the elderly, and children under 10 should avoid prolonged exposure to Happy Fun Ball. Caution, Happy Fun Ball may suddenly accelerate to dangerous speeds. Happy Fun Ball contains a liquid core, which if exposed to rupture should not be touched, inhaled, or looked at. Do not use Happy Fun Ball on concrete. Discontinue use of Happy Fun Ball if any of the following occurs: itching, vertigo, dizziness, tingling in extremities, loss of balance or coordination, slurred speech, temporary blindness, profuse sweating, or heart palpitations. If Happy Fun Ball begins to smoke, get away immediately. Seek shelter and cover head. Seek shelter and cover head. Happy Fun Ball may stick to certain types of skin. When not in use, Happy Fun Ball should be returned to its special container and kept under refrigeration. Failure to do so relieves the makers of Happy Fun Ball, Wacky Products Incorporated. Relieves the makers of Happy Fun Ball, Wacky Products Incorporated, and its parent company, Global Chemical Unlimited, of any and all liability. Ingredients of Happy Fun Ball included unknown glowing green substance which fell to Earth, presumably from outer space. Happy Fun Ball has been shipped to our troops in Saudi Arabia and is being dropped by our warplanes in Iraq. Do not taunt Happy Fun Ball. Happy Fun Ball comes with a lifetime warranty. Happy Fun Ball! Accept no substitutes. Oh, does it keep going? Oh, is that it? Shoot, seems like it should keep going. There you go. Good call on that one. That's a good one. That was a fun one. All right. Eric Thompson. Okay. Yeah, Eric Thompson, credit for the Brad Perez picture. Thank you for sharing that. That's fantastic. Alrighty. So, well, that's probably a good place to end. How about we do that for tonight, folks? All right. So, so one more thing here. I got some more stickers coming to the Last Car store here this week, so we'll get some more here for the Last Car page here. So stay tuned for that. I'll have some more information on that at Last Car on Brock this week. Is my Twitter. Patreon.com/LastCarOnBrock is the Patreon, and of course this YouTube channel for more content here. So thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. We may do another show, maybe this weekend, maybe not, for Father's Day weekend here. We don't have a race this weekend. More than likely our next show is going to be next Sunday after the Cup Series race in Nashville. We'll do a review of the entire week's activities there. I got plenty of time before that. We might do a stream. We'll find out. Things will play out there. But at the latest, it'll be after the conclusion of Nashville weekend as NBC takes over the NASCAR coverage here this year. So we'll have a lot of fun with that there at the same time. So thank you everyone for tuning in for this special episode here, Behind the Wall, wrapping up things at Sears Point. Again, big thanks to Ben Schneider for his help this weekend. Thanks to Brad Perez at Emerling-Gase Motorsports for the opportunity to come on board and help sponsor the number 53 car this weekend. And I want to also give a special shout out as well to Bill Mayers over at the Front Row Motorsports team. I want to make sure I get this in here as well. The Bandoleros are running tonight in Charlotte, and I made a brief mention of this here on the feed. So I want to get this here. That Bobby Mayers, his son there, driving car number 6, got a Last Car logo on that car as well. So we had a little fun with that there too. So good luck to him. I got to check Flow Racing when I get the chance here and see how the race went there as well. So we'll find out on everything from there. So have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And we'll be back for our next show. Stay tuned on that. Very soon, if not this weekend, certainly for Nashville. So have a great week, everyone. Enjoy the weekend off, and we'll be back with you next time.